Chapter 60. 3.19 second small star, I'm sorry you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 60. 3.19 second small star, I'm sorry at the hotel room. With a puking sound of Meng Lon in the background, Mo Juan just looked at his wife who wears madness on his eyes and his body covered in blood. From the scene before him, the blood seems to be from the Chow Junzi splattered on the floor like a grounded meat. BL.net The only difference is that the grounded meat was moving on its own, slowly returning to its original shape as Chow Junzi. Mo Juan was shocked to the point that his mind was in breakdown. Yi Xiajie had to take over the body as his silvery eyes turned completely black. Yi Xiajie showed no shock in his face as he could only smile bitterly at his wife's antics. Sighing for a moment, "Ha, you overdid, wife," replied Yi Xiajie as he flicked his fingers, reversing the time of the whole world. Of course even Meng Anya, Meng Lon and Chow Junzi were affected, only Mo Juan was unaffected. Meng Anya's memories were not erased as he is an outsider, though his current body isn't spared from the time reversing. Time reversed and everything was undone. Even the Zerg pill, Anya fed to Chow Junzi, was reimbursed and returned to the system. Yi Xiajie even sealed Mo Juan's memories of Anya covered in blood. The scene was reverted to the part where Anya was supposed to be underneath Chow Junzi. Once the time returned to normal, Yi Xiajie acted like he just arrived before Meng Lon and witnessed the scene where Chow Junzi is about to rape Meng Anya. He instantly pulled Junzi off his wife's body and covered the latter's messy appearance with the blanket, hiding him from others. Though the reason was because he doesn't want the latter to struggle and leave him in midst of anger. After all, he made his move to reserve his time without his permission. Moreover, Anya wasn't able to escape his spell because he did it when he caught Anya in surprise. Once Chow Junzi was thrown out of the room, Meng Lon and others arrived. Seeing Chow Junzi's half-naked self and Mo Juan protectively hugged Meng Anya, who is completely covered in a blanket, that they knew what happened. Chow Junzi tried to rape Meng Anya and gladly Mo Juan arrived on time to save him. Meng Huang asked worriedly, "Juan, how's my son?" He's drugged. "I need to, please leave father. In law," replied Mo Juan. Xueling and the minister, upon understanding his words, pulled away that doting parent out of the room. Together with them the dumbfounded Meng Lon in rags took their leave. They closed the door of the room, even locking it after them. As soon as the other people left to give them privacy, Meng Anya freed himself from the blanket covering him and even forcefully removed the arms wrapped around him. When Yi Xiajie tried to hug him once again, he could only stop when he heard his wife's emotionless tone calling his name and his out-of-emotion face. "Let go, Yi Xiajie," said Meng Anya. His voice is completely indifferent. Yi Xiajie knows that he is angry and didn't dare to go against his wife. He watched as Meng Anya ignored his presence and walked towards the bathroom, even closing the door with a force. He heard a loud sound of the door closed banged. Then he heard shower sounds and knew that his wife was taking a bath. Only when the bath was taking too long that it even lasted more than an hour that Yi Xiajie walked towards the bathroom to coax his angry wife. He heard a sound of someone puking inside the room and he knew that something was wrong with his wife. He ran inside the bathroom in worry. The scene inside devastates him. He saw his wife still wearing his clothes seated inside the shower room on his knees while puking everything inside his stomach. He was even grabbing his neck with force that his skin broke and started bleeding. It is as if he wanted to scratch the inner of his throat to stop himself from puking but unable to do so. Puking and sounds of water falling. Seeing his wife's current state made Yi Xiajie feel immense discomfort in his chest. He forcefully entered the shower room and hugged his wife, ignoring the puke and all on the ground as he grabbed the hands on his neck, stopping him from additional self-harm. He expected his wife to struggle in his embrace, but he only felt his soft body fall on him. He can hear his wife whimpering. "Hoo, I feel so disgusting. Hubby, it's so disgusting. Why? "Why didn't you let me kill him?" said Meng Anya while crying as he trembles within his husband's arms. The sobbing cries of his wife resounds inside the bathroom, which almost made Yi Xiajie crazy. He can only hug his wife, not knowing the reason why his wife is acting in such a way. He knew that nothing bad happened between Meng Anya and Chao Junzi, as they clearly saw Anya beat the latter to death covered in blood. His wife is strong and will never allow others to touch him. Indeed, he is correct that He Anjing is strong. Who could have expected that He Anjing is touch-averse? With the only exception of his family members and Yi Xiajie, no one was able to touch him intimately. As long as there are clothes that separate him and others, hugging is fine. A short handshake is also fine. Which is why when Meng Huang hugged Meng Anya, he showed no sign of rejection, as there's clothes between them. But once a stranger tried to touch his body directly or touch him intimately beyond his clothes, Anjing snapped. Which is why when Chao Junzi directly put his hand inside his clothes and touched him like how his husband did, that his rejection flared. This is the reason why He Anjing wanted to kill Chao Junzi only when his calm nerves stopped himself from killing the protagonist Gong in fear of failing his task and was forced to leave the world, separating from his husband, and lose his only time to spend with his lover, that he held back his repulsion in his heart. Yi Xiajie's actions of reversing the time to where he felt Chao Junzi's touched once again made his last restraint snapped because of extreme disgust in his heart, which resulted to the scene Yi Xiajie is currently witnessing in the bathroom. It seems that there is something that traumatized Anjing, hidden within those sealed memories of his thoughts his soul remembers. No longer able to endure his wife's cries, that Yi Xiajie could only force Meng Anya to sleep. After bathing his wife and removing his filthy clothes, only covering themselves with a bathrobe, that he carried his wife to bed in order to rest. Seeing his wife cry even in his sleep, made Yi Xiajie completely uncomfortable. He can only ask the only being that witnesses what happened to his wife. Executioner 0013. Appear before this lord, commanded Yi Xiajie. System Executioner appeared as he was summoned by someone of the highest command. 0013 at your service. Tell me. Why is my wife's reaction like this? Asked Yi Xiajie. System Executioner 0013 was silent for a moment. This executioner doesn't know. But it seems that the host had a problem of being touched intimately by strangers. I think it's better for sire to watch it yourself. Only when he felt a glare coming from Yi Xiajie that he showed a video of the scene when Meng Anya's reactions were the greatest. Yi Xiajie watched the recording and couldn't help but frown upon finishing watching the video. When he saw his wife's adverse reaction from the recording, he knew that he truly wronged his wife for stopping him from killing Chao Junzi. Based on the video, he can see that He Anjing has an extreme case of touch-averse. Once someone else, aside from a few exceptions like him and his direct bloodline, touched him, that his reaction towards a direct touch was revealed. His actions of reversing the time to the scene where his rejection was at peak made things worse. Not only that action made his wife unhappy, he made his wife suffer twice because of his extreme rejection and disgust, leading to self-harm. Yi Xiajie couldn't help but want to beat himself up from a few hours ago. He indirectly activated the hidden trauma his wife has. Yi Xiajie said to the executioner. You can leave. The little system returns back to his space and disappears once again. With a trembling hand, Yi Xiajie reached out to caress his wife's cold cheek gently. Jing'er, I've wronged you, murmured Xiajie as he looked at his wife asleep beside him. Once he finished healing the scratches on his wife's neck, lowering his head, Xiajie landed a kiss on Anya's forehead gently. I'm sorry, he whispered. A teardrop unconsciously strolls down from his obsidian eyes, tainted with deep regret and guilt, falling softly on Meng Anya's cheeks. A/N. Everyone, this fairy Nilfi greets you all happy Valentine's Days. Chapter 61. 3.20 second small star, after the storm, and, you are listening at novelfull.audio. A/N. My dears, please enjoy my Valentine Day uploads. Meng Anya was awakened by the warm drop that fell on his cheeks. Once his eyes opened, the first thing he saw were those pairs of captivating obsidian orbs filled with stars and galaxy. Thought at this moment those eyes were showing the emotions of regret and guilt. He reached out his hand caressing the handsome face of his husband before him. He knew what he was thinking. It wasn't even his fault, as he is someone with sealed memories, doesn't remember that he had touch aversion. Moreover, the reason was hidden together with his sealed memories. In fact, this was the first time he allowed someone's disgusting plan to happen. He could have avoided it, but his decision to play around resulted in this ending. He just wanted to be intimate with his husband faster. It was his own greed that let him have this kind of result. Allowing himself to be drugged by an aphrodisiac so he could give his husband a reason to be intimate with him before their marriage. More than that, he is already unsatisfied with just touching. But seeing his husband's current mood, it seems close to impossible to continue anymore. Forget it. The time is not just right. Meng Anya's thoughts. Don't worry. I'm not angry anymore, said Anya while trying to coax her husband. He could feel his hand wandering on his waist before he got pulled in a tighter hug. Wife, I've aggrieved you this time. Forgive me. It won't happen again, replied Yi Xiajie with a sad smile before giving his wife a peck. Yi Xiajie pulled him closer to him, intending to sleep for tonight, leaving all aftermaths to their family and subordinates. Once Xiajie closed his eyes, he returned the body to the original resident of the world, Moe Juan. It seems that Yi Xiajie overdone it this time when he reversed the time. He was forced to sleep even before he said his goodbyes to his wife, returning the control of his body to Moe Juan. Despite showering with cold water just now, the effects of the drug were instead heightened as he felt a familiar touch that made his skin burn naturally. Now with the properties of aphrodisiac, his body feels even more listless than before. Yi Xiajie's touch created an opposite effect to Meng Anya's body. Instead of disgust, he felt an unbearable itch from within him. Strangely, Meng Anya felt a cold breeze blowing below him, only to see that he was only wearing a bathrobe on his body when he looked down. His heated body reminds him that he was drugged by an aphrodisiac. Both he and his husband were only wearing bathrobes, as their clothes were thoroughly soaked after that scene in the bathroom. When Moe Juan opened his eyes, he was welcomed by the scene of his wife's flushed face and long white legs clamped together while looking so listless. Seeing his wife tightly knitted brows and wet, glimmering eyes revealed his chagrin and helplessness, felt an arouse in his sexual appetite and couldn't help but gulp at the scene. Meng Anya felt his body's temperature increase and he couldn't get rid of the heat from his body. There was an inexplicable itch coming from that place, seemed eager to be penetrated by something. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Asked Moe Juan with a worried tone, but his hands were not honest as it gently stroked Anya's cheeks, neck down to his collarbone and inside the other person's bathrobe. Moe Juan's naughty hand gesture made Meng Anya's trembles irrepressible as he gasped at every light touch of his husband's fingers. Anya can only whimper as he looked at his husband's eyes misted with tears and could only muster enough strength to slightly pull Juan closer and rub his face on his bare chest. Woo-woo, painful. Hubby, I feel so empty and it's so uncomfortable hot. It's so hot. Bring me to the bathroom please, said Meng Anya as he rubs his face on his husband's chest. Not knowing that his action just further aroused the latter's lust before him. Hearing his wife's words, Moe Juan's heart thumped wildly. He forcefully suppressed the rising heat in his lower region. Reaching it, he pinched his wife's chin, lifting it to meet his eyes, only for him to see his wet, lust-clouded crimson eyes that paired up with his flushed cheeks. Wife, nod if you agree. Once you nod, I will not let you go. Looking at his prey in this kind of situation, the hunter was bound to win. This person has always been his exclusively, and in the future he will only become his. Juan teasingly moved the hand that held Anya's chin to his cheeks, with his thumb touching the slightly open trembling lips. Seeing his husband's playful grin on that handsome face, Anya could no longer bear the hotness of his body. He fiercely captured that thin lips imprinted with a sly smile. Biting in retaliation, Ijuan hissed in pain of his lip being chomped on. The slight blood that flows from his wounded lips was licked gently by that small tongue, and those cherry lips which he couldn't help but sucked as he slipped his tongue into that small wayward mouth, prying opened his teeth with no effort, greedily sucking at the sweet juice, pulling out with a strand of silk only to plunder back in. With his free hands wandering inside that bathrobe, loosened by their wild movements, Ijuan moved to remove his wife's bathrobe. His well-proportioned and sexy upper body exposed in front of him. Those two pairs of abs are well connected to those perfectly sculpted mermaid lines. You could see how slender that waist and nude, which is even more attractive. On that chest were ripened cherry, obviously for picking. Ijuan reached for his wife's chest and pinched that pair of erect peaks, eliciting a licentious moan from his Anya. More. Being subjected to his husband's ravaging, the sensation on his sensitive nub was doubled under the effect of the drug and quickly turned red under the kneading and biting of Ijuan. Many nerve endings were transmitting the stimulation straight to his brain, making it muddled from immense pleasure. With his other left hand busy pinching his wife's little cherries, his right hand was wandering lower to Anya's little brother. With a bit of precum stationed on the tip, Ijuan could only rub it with his fingers, making Anya moan in return. Playing with only his nipples, Ijuan was able to make his wife come once. Anya's mind and body were burning with an intense feeling of hunger and thirst. Not giving him any time to rest, Ijuan using his wife's own seed lingering on his right hand's fingers probe in the other man's back hole. It was Meng Anya's first time in this body, but thanks to the aphrodisiac he was drugged with, some lubricating fluids were being secreted back there, and with a little force, Ijuan was able to push his finger inside. Feeling a foreign object entering him, adding up the fact that he was drugged with a love medicine, instead of a painful sensation, he felt completely unsatisfied not only with the length, temperature, and especially the thickness, leaving him discontented. Meng Anya twisted his waist in displeasure. Seeing his wife disgruntled, how he wished he could fulfill his wants at this moment, but it was his wife's first time in this body, and he must prepare him well. Ijuan could only turn deaf to his wife's annoyed grunts as he pushed in out his finger, adding one in after another until he reached the number of 3. After teasing his wife's secret place until it swollen red from being penetrated by his fingers, he thrust it once more, but this time even deeper than the shallow ones, looking for that sweet spot. Upon finding a small bulge within, he rubbed it gently, making his wife gasp in surprise and moan loudly in pleasure. Teed at that place, Ijuan can see Anya's waist move, his waist up and down, wanting for his fingers to push in deeper to that place. Seeing Anya's eyes full of desire, he could only tease him by pulling out his fingers, only for his wife to moan in displeasure. His rod that had already swelled to a sinister shade that even his bathrobe couldn't hide it any longer. He grabbed a lube from the side table of the bed, pouring it on his huge little brother and inside his wife little chrysanthemum, intending to fuck his wife raw. That little giant slowly approached the wet folds of his wife's secret place, a thrust inside him deeply with one movement. Anya screamed in pleasure. Ijuan's member pounded inside him as if he wanted to imprint his shape inside him. He can feel something extremely hard and hot penetrating him from below, again and again, feeling the huge shape of his husband's member in his stomach. Anya couldn't help but touch his bulging tummy with his fingers with a pleased smile on his lips. That light touch of his wife's fingers caused Ijuan's last restraints to snap. Anya was a bit startled to feel the hands suddenly holding his waist, carrying him to sit on his husband's lap. Seeing his husband's eyes filled with unfulfilled desires, he felt pain from the two hands gripping his waist. With a sly smile on his face, "Wife, this is your fault, okay?" said Ijuan between his pants. An innocent, wondering expression appeared on Anya's bright red face as he suddenly felt those hands gripping on his waist push him down. He felt that the thing inside him penetrated him even deeper than the first time as his husband continued to slam it further inside, causing tears to fall from those crimson eyes because of intense pleasure and pain. Deep. So deep, muffled words between his moans were heard inciting Ijuan's desires more. His husband was making him lose his mind in pleasure, making him drown on his own moans. Going even faster. Anya placed his arms around Ijuan's neck as he gave him sloppily kisses, a string of saliva from both of their lips, creating an erotic scene. Feeling himself coming, Anya clenched tighter, squeezing the hard thing inside him, causing Ijuan to reach his climax at the same time. As a warm feeling filling his stomach, Anya screamed in his greatest pleasure. Meng Anya was already tired from one round, but his body still isn't completely sated yet because of the drug inside his body. He instinctively moves his waist up and down, making wet noises, even his husband's milk pouring out his abused place. Whining in discontent, not enough. Hubby more, Meng Anya whimpered near his husband's ears. His husband satisfied his desire by changing his position, making him fall on his knees as Ijuan's member was not pulled out at all during the whole process. He can hear his husband's seductive pants echoing in the room. With his ass in the air, he was once again penetrating inside even faster than the first time. Anya was moaning at every thrust as his husband roughly drilled inside him, repeatedly hitting the spot that made him crazy. He was a weeping, moaning mess. Anya could only cry out loudly. Mo Ijuan thoroughly ate him the whole night. Even when his mind affected by the drug were cleared, the intense pleasure from the deed made him almost insane. He was penetrated over and over, that Anya had even forgotten to count how many times his husband made love with him that night. It was like Ijuan was the one drugged instead of him. At dawn the next day, once Mo Ijuan tucked his wife to sleep and finished the deed, he cleaned up everything and called their family doctor to check on his wife. This is an assurance that will allow Ijuan to calm down. After all, he didn't know what kind of aphrodisiac that bastard, Chao Junzi, gave his wife. He is not willing to leave some kind of after effects on his Anya's body because of an unregistered drug. After a detailed checkup, Ijuan sighed in relief after hearing from the doctor that except from fatigue from their nightly deed, there is nothing wrong with his wife's body. Though the doctor only left after taking a few blood samples of Meng Anya to check what kind of drug was given to him. The doctor promised to inform him right away once the results were out. After seeing the doctor out, Mo Ijuan called for their aides. Mo Ijuan's aura turned dangerous in silence. Baiyu, did you take that bastard to that place? Yes, boss. Don't worry. Except for Meng Lan asking who asked for the man, but knowing that it was your orders, he took his leave with Uncle Meng and the rest of the elders, replied Yi Baiyu. Mo Ijuan, Lin Xia. Stay here for a few hours. Look after my wife for a while. I'll pay you 1,000,000 per hour. Let me borrow Baiyu. Lin Xia smiled, the boss could use him as long as you want. Hearing his reply, Yi Baiyu's face showed a depressed expression. Seeing this, Lin Xia said, but please return it once you're done, I won't be able to sleep without my huge pillow. Yi Baiyu's expression brightens when he hears this. Don't worry. I'll return him. Call me immediately once my wife woke up, said Mo Ijuan to look at his sleeping wife with a tender gaze before leaving the room together with his subordinate, Yi Baiyu, with coldness in his face. Some unknown abandoned place. Chao Junzi was thrown on the dusty floor with his hand tied behind him as well as his feet. Looking at his current state, it is obvious that he was beaten up until his bruises turned purplish black. Mo Ijuan's men, lucky, useless thing. If the lady boss wasn't drugged, do you think you would still be alive? One of Ijuan's men said. Hey! Fucking bastard! To think you've covered our lady boss, you are crazy. Since you dare to do such a thing, I think you should be thrown in a brothel to feel it yourself. If it's like that, then he doesn't need this. Someone stepped on his little birdie without any mercy. Once that was done, a shrilling scream echoed in the warehouse. Chao Junzi officially became the last eunuch of modern China. Seated on a prepared couch within the place, Mo Ijuan watched as Chao Junzi was tortured non-stop by his people. He doesn't need to give them orders. Once they've heard this man tried to cause harm to their god, their lady boss, almost all of them work on torturing Chao Junzi. Of course Moe Juan didn't stop them. The only order he gave them is not to let Chao Junzi die, aside from that they could do whatever they wanted to him. After Yi Xiajie returned the control to him, the necessary memories of events were restored in his mind as if he was the one who experienced everything in those memories. Those special parts that involve inhumanity, like the scene of Chao Junzi getting beaten up to a meatball, was especially sealed by Xiajie before he had gone back to his slumber. Parts of memories were sealed every time Yi Xiajie took control of the body. This happens not only in this world but in later worlds as well. After enjoying few hours of endless torture, Chao Junzi no longer need to be tied up. Both his legs and arms were already broken. At his current state, crawling is no longer possible. With his battered body laying on the floor, covered in his own blood, if not for the wheezing sounds of his breathing, people would have thought he was a corpse. Seeing his current state, Moe Juan felt completely unsatisfied for some reason. In his bewildered state, Yi Xiajie woke up once again and faced that annoying bug that made him wrong his wife. Looking at his current state, Yi Xiajie is completely unsatisfied. He stood up and stepped on Chao Junzi's head without hesitation. The force he used almost cracked the skull of the protagonist Gong. Yi Xiajie said coldly, "Everything is your fault. Don't even think of dying, Aunt. I should return those to you." Moving his foot away from Chao Junzi's head, the latter looked up and glared at Yi Xiajie. His face deformed and covered in blood. Junzi wanted to curse on him, but his tongue was numb and most of his teeth were gone. He could only glare at him. Xiajie grabbed his hair without mercy and lifted him up like a sack of potato. Yi Xiajie whispered, "Undying body of a bug suits you." Xiajie forced him to eat the same pill as what Anya gave to him before. But unlike the Zerg pill from before, the pill Xiajie gave him allows him not to die, the pain and everything else remains. At the same time return to him his memories of dying and regenerating non-stop from before. Remembering his supposed to be erased memories of his torture, Chao Junzi's eyes trembles as he looked at Yi Xiajie. Chao Junzi screamed non-stop with his numbed tongue, Demon, staring at Moe Juan's figure completely terrified. Seeing his mad expression, Xiajie was finally satisfied and returned the control of the body to the original. Once Moe Juan woke up, the unsatisfied feeling from before completely disappeared. He ignored the howling Chao Junzi in front of him. Looking at his phone, he knew that it was almost morning and that he needed to return back to the hotel before his wife woke up. Moe Juan, Baiyu. Send that thing to an asylum. Tell them that he doesn't need to come out anymore. You can go back to Lin Xia. After that, he took his leave after saying those words. The rest after that was tied up by the group left in the place. Morning, Meng Anya felt numb and in pain all over that he couldn't even move an inch from the bed for a few days. Even after his husband massaged his waist, he still wasn't able to stand up from the bed. Instead, he has to leave the hotel in his husband's arms. As they left the hotel premise, with everyone's eyes on him, Meng Anya could only hide his face to his husband's chest even without looking at the smirking pair of aides that followed them from behind. As they were officially engaged and already did that deed, Moe Juan brought Meng Anya home to Ani City. In their mansion they lived together with only them and their two most trusted aides, Lin Xia and Yi Baiyu, who seemed to have the same relationship as them. Their marriage has been scheduled at the same time as their, which will be a double beach wedding abroad. After that event, Chao Junzi was thrown to a mental institute like he had gone insane. He was saying that Meng Anya is a monster and that Moe Juan is a demon or something. It seems that after that night Moe Juan gave him another set of torturing sessions and returned his memories from when Meng Anya played with his life like a toy, left him endless nightmares. He also remembered the only way for him to die. Unable to die with his own hands unless he burns himself alive. Meng Lan, on the other hand, had his heart completely broken. He made himself busy with work and took over Starlight when his brother and father retired. Afterwards, he learned that Meng Anya was not his older brother, but instead his elder cousin. According to the latest DNA report of their family, his biological father is his current father's little twin brother who died from illness a few years ago. His mother mistaken Meng Huang, who looks like his father, as they were identical twins, as his supposed to be deceased husband. Only when they met face to face that she recognized that Meng Huang is not her husband, but her brother.in.law. As she is already having her own family, Meng Lan was officially adopted by Meng Huang, and Meng Anya became his true brother on paper. Few years later, when he heard that Chao Junzi died in the mental institute, he finally felt his heart free and found his new love at the age of 30. A scientist who works together with him in Odin's laboratory. At the age of 28, Moe Juan and Meng Anya got married in Maldives together with the other couple Lin Xia and his slave husband, Yi Baiyu. At the age of 35 they left for LA to prepare for AW scheduling. Yijuan and Anya had twins, one who works with Meng and Shui, while the other is next in line as minister after his father. Baiyu and Xia also had a beautiful daughter who became the future minister's wife at the age of 20. At the age of 50, the two couples went adventuring around the world. They've returned to China at the age of 80 to leave their remaining life surrounded by their children and grandchildren. Then at the age of 90, they died peacefully and together as always. Before they've died, Anya hears his system's prompt. Host, congratulations for repairing a world error. This star will be undergoing upgrade. Upgraded in progress. 10% before the world evolved to a medium star. Chapter 62. 4.0 Prologue. In the system space before the fourth world, you are listening at novelfull.audio. System space. He Anjing returned to EXE space. There are only two small stars hovering around him in that galaxy. With his little moon system avatar floating before the two stars wondering why they looked different, He Anjing observed his little system observing the two hovering stars around his moon avatar. He Anjing, is there something wrong? EXE asked by his host. Host, these two stars were different from before. They were not dying like they used to be, but checking through it, it seems that your husband's souls are not yet born on these stars, but because he is destined to be born in these worlds, the stars were no longer dying, as if they were being poured by some power to adjust it accordingly to accommodate your husband's birth. So the stars are currently not dying, but my husband has not been born yet in those worlds. If so, look for other stars where my husband's soul has long been born. Said He Anjing to his system. Executioner 13, the little system followed his host orders and entered the ring of galaxies to look for the following stars where that person's soul resides. While waiting for his little system to return, He Anjing busied himself reading a book that his little system prepared to entertain him. It took a few hours until Executioner returned with 7 stars, 3 being medium size while the rest were large at size. Host, I found 7 stars with the low, your husband's soul in it. But please be reminded that there are ranks among stars. The small stars from before only have the ranks of F to E. Host had completed 2 F rank and 1 E rank stars. Among these 6 stars, 2 are D rank, 3 C rank and 1 B rank. Does the host wish to see the world plots? Seeing the 7 stars hovering around his moon-shaped system. He Anjing saw that the stars vary in size and colors. Among the 7 stars, 3 were only slightly bigger than the ones he had entered before, which only had the size of a ping-pong ball. Unlike the dimming white lights from the small stars before, these 3 stars are glowing with blue lights and have the size as large as a tennis ball. Another 3 stars with the size as large as a fist of a human adult, but has a brighter radiance than that of the 2. It is glowing with the shade of green. While the last star that has the size of a small beach ball sparkles with the color of violet. He Anjing spoke, tell me the world plots, EXE. D rank stars world plots. First blue star. Guide and Sentinel world plot. War against the alien invasion of Zerg. The transmigrated Sho awakened as a guide. With his memories as the most powerful mercenary from his world, he will trample all of those people who bullied him and looked down on him. Under the protection of his Sentinel General they wish to lead the world to the era of peace. Second blue star. Ghost World plot. Cursed by the Ghost King, the protagonist Sho was destined to die. The protagonist Sho and protagonist Gong need to fight together to survive the calamity bestowed to them by the King of Hell. Third blue star. Crime World plot. An extreme serial killer who kills hidden criminals portrays themselves as normal. He kills for a reason of looking for someone. A special psychopath which acts even blinds the world's strongest justice, the protagonist going as his special officer under him, and a protagonist Sho who works as a forensic doctor but has a hidden agenda. See Rank Stars World plots. First green star. Game World plot. A virtual reality game, where players enter the world of endless horror and scream. Imprisoned in the game world, the protagonist Sho and protagonist Gong work together to return in reality, leaving the traces of countless death and madness. Second green star. Futuristic World plot. Survival game setting, in the future where technology is at its peak. Money can be earned through games. Broadcasted globally, the transmigrated Sho wondered in the era of survival games. Watch him grow from being a rabbit to a ferocious leopard, with the pampering Gong keeping him safe in the shadows. Third green star. Apocalypse World plot. By the end of the world, the reborn protagonist Gong wanted to protect his lover, the protagonist Sho, from his destined death and go against the fate of the world. B rank star World plot. First violet star. Cultivation World plot. To be an unparalleled cultivator of the land. The protagonist Sho, who lost everything, vowed to take revenge. With the support of the protagonist Gong, he will ravish that very sect who killed his family. Please make your choice, host. Seeing the world plots, Hei Anjing didn't show any reaction to seeing varying world settings. After all, he is someone from a high-tier world, and a game-like setting of World Journey is considered as a promotional trial in his own world. After experiencing 3 worlds with modern and ordinary type settings, Anjing is delighted to see the world plots before him. Hei Anjing spoke. The first and second green stars seem to have similar game setting plots. What's the difference between the two? Answering to host. The first world is purely a game world where your real soul will be used as a game character. Only when the host returns to reality that the task will be considered complete. While the second world is SCI.FI world, where virtual reality is considered as second world and the task revolved inside this virtual reality. I see. This crime world. Is it still set in the modern era? Asked Hei Anjing. Yes, host. It's a modern world setting but in a different view. Host had done the perspective for entertainment, business, and music society. This is a crime-angled perspective. Does the host wish to choose this blue star? Hei Anjing nodded his head after thinking for a moment. Yes. Let's choose that crime world setting. Said Anjing before reaching out to that third blue star, only to be blocked by a huge moon who bumped his head with it. Ow, host, please don't forget you need to choose skill/S before entering the world. Shall I give host the list of skills? With tears on the corner of that phoenix-shaped sapphire orbs, Hei Anjing is holding a small bump on his forehead resulting from getting his head bashed by his moon-shaped system. Glaring Hei Anjing, next time just say it. Don't just bash me out of nowhere. I may have a high tolerance against pain, but that doesn't mean I like pain. Remember that I hate pain. The second, complained Hei Anjing towards his little system who just hit him in the head just now. Sorry host. I will remember. Please choose 2 skills in the list. Skill list. Arts of seduction, retrocognition, precognition, psychometry, martial arts, weapon, martial arts, body arts, arts of healing, modern medicine. Host needed to choose 2 skills this time since the host didn't choose a skill in the last world. Reminding the host that in the next world the host is able to redeem 4 items from the system mall. Why is that seduction skill still there? I thought psychometry and retrocognition are the same, asked He Anjing. Psychometry obtains historical memories or sensations concerning beings and objects they observe. With objects, they gain knowledge including the makers, users, and even those who have on passing used the object, and what has been done with it. With living beings or parts of the body, the user learns their general life history, what they were thinking and feeling. Retrocognition can discern the past and past events using various means, usually entering a trance while seeing and hearing a noted past event, whether it be concerning themselves or of an unfamiliar lineage in a past occurrence. Occasionally spontaneous. He Anjing, it's both under the list of mental skills, but don't these skills fall under the categories of supernatural? Yes, host, but in this star there are few considered special people who can use special skill as such. Mind reading and telepathy are samples of it. I choose retrocognition and precognition. That way I'll have the ability to see both the past and future. Host, are you sure? Both are mental-related skills. Once you fall into trance it might be a little harder to return to reality if something goes wrong. How about changing one to the art of healing? It's better to have a healing skill. EXE, didn't you see my memories? If I remember it right, my mother is a doctor, and my dad is a martial artist, so my skill as a doctor and fighting are top-notch. So I don't need those skills, but to recommend to me the skills that leans to healing and fighting, is the next world dangerous? Host, the world you'll be entering is a world that is slightly above the last one. It has the same level as the music world where host got hurt twice. Please be reminded that if you die inside those stars without completing the task that you'll be executed. E and F are low-tier worlds, D to B are mid-tier worlds. A and S are high-tier worlds. Don't worry. I know what you mean to say. I will be careful. Thank you. You are called Executioner, right? Is that your name or just a tag? Asked He Anjing. It's a code name. I am under the category of executioners. I'm the 13th in rank, so my code name is Executioner 0013. But you are my system now, calling you EXE doesn't sound good. Moreover, your avatar shape is so like that thing. I will call you Yu, which means moon in Chinese. I will leave now to learn the skills. See ya, said Anjing before entering the portal that appeared out of nowhere within the system space. Yu is moon in Chinese. So my name means moon. Decades later, He Anjing finally finished his training on precognition and retrocognition. He could now be considered as a master under those two skills. After exiting the portal connected to the training hall, Execution noticed that his host was wearing black gloves on his hands covering every part of his fingers and palm within. Host, are you okay? He Anjing spoke, I'm fine, you. But unlike my teleportation skill, these two skills are harder to turn on and off. As long as I touch something, every memory of that experience will flow within my head. I will feel fluffy in the head like it's empty, making me feel uncomfortable. Begin transfer, please. I choose this blue star. As he held the third blue star hovering around him in a half-meter distance. Host, a remainder. According to the last star you've entered, you still have 4 redeeming tickets remaining, adding up the 3 redeeming tickets for this new star. Host is able to redeem items from the system mall 7 times. I remember that. Begin transfer, you. Host, please prepare for transfer in 10, 9, 5, 2, 1. Transfer complete. After he completely entered the world within the blue star, a familiar feeling of being sucked inside made him uncomfortable. Underscore 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 next world's characters profile. Protagonist Gong. Yi Zheng, FBI Chief, Special Ability. Morality Viewing, ability to peer into a person's inner self to determine character. Protagonist Show. Li Guang, Forensic Doctor, Special Ability. Photographic memory, ability to remember things as photos in his memories. Cannon fodder. Li Xing, FBI officer, special ability. Photographic deduction, ability to figure out connections in whatever the user is investigating and process them extraordinarily fast. Villain. Xia Yi, serial killer, special ability. Social intuition aka common touch. Intuitively determine how to interact with subjects. One with this ability could tell exactly what to say to interact with certain people, or tell the rank of a person within a group. The user also gains a great voice, eloquence, and charisma. Mind reading, an ability to read the mind of certain people whose mental strength is weaker than his. Cannon fodder. Guilin, main character, special officer, special ability. Precognition, ability to see a fracture of future events. Retrocognition, the power to discern events of the past. Original special ability, telepathy, the supposed communication of thoughts or ideas by means other than the known senses. Supporting actor. Yun Li, Guilin's assistant, special ability. Rhythm intuition. Knowledge/intuition of the rhythm and fluctuation of the sound waves. Minor villain. Su Luan, Xia Ye's subordinate, special ability. Survival intuition. Intuition knows all survival skills for all types of environments and being able to work effortlessly in those environments. Chapter 63. 4.1/3 Blue Star, Childhood. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Once He Anjing opened his eyes, what welcomed him was a small pair of white hands and feet. Once he took complete control of his body, he noticed that he had shrunk to a 5-year-old body. Looking at his current body, this vessel is wearing a plain long white shirt and pants. Like those in hospitals, a pure white gown. He then looks around his surroundings. The room is painted with pure color. Everything around him is white. The walls and floor were painted white, his bed and pillows were bleached in the same color. He also noticed that the structure of the room is more like a cell, but more organized like a dormitory room. The room he is in has 2 double-decker beds. Laying on the beds were children wearing the same white gown as he did. The age of the children ranges from 5 to 10. He himself looks the youngest among the 4 children within the room. All 3 of them look a bit older than he does, at least 7 to 8 years old. Seeing this situation, He Anjing knew that he was in some kind of medical facility or in an experimental facility. If it's the former then there is not much danger, but if it's the latter then he needs to look through things more. In his mind, Anjing contacted his system who revealed his name as Yu. Yu, the world plot and memories please. Right away, host. World plot. Protagonist Gong Yizheng, he is an extremely righteous man who hates criminals. With his protagonist Halo as this world's first heavenly son, he lives his life for the justice he is chasing all his life. Within that bleak dark side of society, he met the only angel in his life, Li Guang. Li Guang is a professional forensic doctor with a master's degree in psychology. With his above-average IQ he was able to work together with Yizheng in capturing Inferno, the largest syndicate for human experiment and trafficking. Thanks to the interference of the villain, Xia Yi, a serial killer, the feelings of love between them deepens. Xia Yi, who was in love with Li Guang, let himself be captured for his sake after helping the 2 of them eliminate the Inferno syndicate. In the end he was sentenced to life imprisonment alone in a psychiatric prison. Host's vessel, the original, is called Guilin. Guilin is a special officer that used to work together with Yizheng. He is an antisocial elite man with genius IQ. His special skill is telepathy, but since he isn't not willing to trust anyone, no one knows about his ability. According to the memories, Guilin is in love with Yizheng. He died while protecting Li Guang in one of the raids. Shoot through the heart and die instantly. The one who shot him is none other than this world villain Xia Yi. He was killed when he learned his identity when saw the man save Li Guang once. Guilan was intending to inform Yi Zheng about this man's identity but was killed in the villain's pretense of trying to kill the protagonist show. Having a conversation with his system in his mind. I see. So what does this man wish? He wanted to help the protagonist Gong in fulfilling his goal of capturing the Inferno Syndicate. He wishes that Li Guang won't end up with Yi Zheng and he wants to fall in love with someone else other than Yi Zheng. This is an E-rank star, right? How come he has 3 wishes? Asked He Anjing. Host's soul is stronger than before, which is why there are more tasks than before. Since this is an E-rank star, host just needs to complete 2 tasks. I see. So where am I? Why did you transfer me in a timeline when the vessel is only a child? This is the most important timeline of this world. Host needs to make sure to escape this place to live longer. This is a hidden experimental institute for special types of humans. The children with you are the young version of the protagonist Gong, the villain, and a cannon fodder named Li Xing. Are you sure this is just an D-rank star? If host is really worried, I can check it to the higher-ups if you wish to. After we got out of this institute you can go. For now get me this whole place blueprints, security code and access programs. Include every information about Inferno and this institute, you. Right away, host. He Anjing carefully moved his body and stood up looking for the bathroom to see his current appearance. His footsteps are light as he walks towards his destination, but he didn't notice that someone had woken up as soon as he moved and left his bed. Now He Anjing shall be called Guilan. In the bathroom, Guilan saw his young appearance. As usual, his phoenix-shaped eyes are present like all his bodies from the latter worlds. Looking at his delicate and a bit feminine face on the mirror, once could see that this child has a bit darker shade of blue-green eyes and hair color. His expressionless face gave his features of coldness and aloofness. Host, someone had secretly followed you in the bathroom. It's the villain, Xie Yi. This person had a special ability to read minds. Please be careful. Guilan's thoughts, a future psychopath serial killer with mind-reading ability, no wonder he didn't get caught at all. Guilan pretended that he didn't notice the other's presence and prepared to pee as he intended. He didn't close the door to the bathroom as he was not really planning to pee and only to check on his appearance. Now that he knew that he was being followed, he knew that he needed to act like he left to pee. While doing so, he made sure that he controlled his thoughts from revealing his real ones. There's a slight smile in the corner of his lip which disappeared instantly. After a while he thoroughly washed his hands on the sink, preparing to return to be and rest. Of course, still ignoring the future villain watching him in the shadows. He pretended that he couldn't see him. To avoid getting caught, pretending he intentionally thought of nothing but leaving some normal thoughts like sleepy/so tired, this is if the latter will try to read his mind. Guilan's bed is the top bunker of the double-decker bed. After climbing up to where his bed is, he laid down and closed his eyes, intending to have a conversation with his system in his mind. Meanwhile, after a few minutes, the young Xie Yi comes out from the shadowy part of the room where he hid his presence and watched Guilan in silence. Walking back to his bed with soundless steps, Xie Yi looked up and stared at Guilan's sleeping figure with a frown on his face. For some reason he could feel uncomfortable, especially when looking at Guilan's figure. He wasn't intending to follow him in the bathroom, but his body moved on its own when he saw the boy leave the vicinity where he could reach. Now looking at the boy's serene sleeping face, Xie Yi's uneasiness disappears. Tucking Guilan's body properly with the blanket, Xie Yi went back to his bed to sleep. Guilan and his system, who witnessed everything from the system's space, were a bit confused. Guilan asked, "Does the original have a close relationship with the villain?" According to the data, the villain is a detached person who is not close to anyone. No one tried to speak to him, and his presence alone scares him. Only Li Xing showed his kindness to him once but shared his snacks when he got sick with fever. But according to the plot, the one who the villain and the protagonist Gong fell in love with is Li Guang. What is the connection with Li Xing and Li Guang? Li Xing is Li Guang's identical twin brother. But because Li Guang's physique is weaker than normal and the Li family is a very poor family, they've sold Li Xing to the institute for money. During the escape plan, Li Xing was originally killed and no one from the group knew. After all, they've all lost each other to escape the facilities. So Yizheng, Xia Yi, and the original Gui Lan didn't know they were all connected to this institute when they'd become adults. The world data says that the villain knew Yizheng's identity and thought that Li Guang is Li Xing from the institute. I see. No wonder. Li Guang got involved in the original circle of people from the institute. They've mistaken Li Guang's identity for Li Xing. Which is why the world plot says that Li Guang is the protagonist show, because the destined one died here in this place. Fun. Let's see if Li Guang will still have a place if I made sure that Li Xing would escape this place alive. Heh, said Gui Lan with a sly smile. Ding. Host, I've received a side task from the heavenly laws of this world. Same as the last world. Repair the world error. Prevent the death of Li Xing, the original protagonist show of this star. Special reward. Soul artifact, divine, lover's soul imprint. This artifact allows the users to share life force. The partner of the user will be able to share his strongest attribute / talent / lifespan. Seeing the description of the soul artifact, both System U and his host, Gui Lan, were startled. Though the latter just smiled instead of showing a surprised expression. Just the reward itself is enough proof that this little blue star he chose is not a mere E-rank star than the record says. There is no way a soul artifact at divine rank can be given away easily as a reward for world error. Which means this world is not easier than they thought it would be. Host, would it be alright for me to leave your side to report about this error? How long would it take you to return? I'll try to return as soon as possible. But if things were worse than we thought, I might take more time. Host doesn't need to worry, as the system mall and inventory will remain open for your use. Leave me the blueprints and all other things needed for escape. Then accept this side task. After all, I really liked the reward this time. You can leave after that. Don't worry about me. You not being here just means I need to make actions on my own. I am just lazy, not stupid. You can go now. Leave the limit off skill card. I will keep it for emergency situations. Said Gui Lan. Okay. Please be careful, host. System U looked at his host, who is now studying the Institute's blueprints, once before taking his leave. After the system disappeared from the special space, Gui Lan's face showed a mischievous smile. He only glanced at the materials before him before waving his hand, and the things before him all turned to ashes. For him, taking a glance at those materials is enough for his brain to register and process everything. His original intelligence has been beyond others ever since his birth. His bloodline has, initiate, high intelligence quotient. His brain could process and register things at godly state. He doesn't need to read, just a look is enough. Gui Lan now has full control of his chi, which is supposed to be sealed. Currently, after finishing 3 worlds, he now has 20% of his original memories. There might be a huge part missing, but the clear part already gave him ideas of whom he was. Though he still doesn't remember who brought him here. Why was he here, and what was his husband's real identity? He could wait. If he knew everything at the beginning, then there will no longer be any fun things for him to play with. Obviously, he wasn't restricted by the heavenly laws. They were more amiable with his presence than the other outsiders like his husband's soul. No, he only needed to wait for that man to tell him everything he wanted to know. He has all the time he needs for it. Morning. There are no windows to allow those inside the room to indicate that it's morning. But the children will know it's morning, as the lights in their room were programmed to turn on at the exact time of 6 a.m. Their breakfast is scheduled at 7 a.m. At 8:30 the children will be called according to schedule to complete certain tasks and tests. After all, they were in an institute under Inferno that studies the human brain. The tasks and tests they will undergo are things that scientists and observers need to complete their goals. The people of Inferno wanted to create special human beings who control special abilities controlled by the brain. Sample of this abilities is telekinesis, hypnotism, clairvoyance and more. Children were tested for half a year, those who failed were eliminated while those who passed were adopted by the syndicate as their people. As of now none of the children have shown any changes. Xia Yi and the rest were the latest batch. They were brought here to the institute a week ago. As for what happened in the batch before them, Guilin is currently looking through his memories to check. His brain had already registered and recorded those materials he saw. Now he is trying to look through his memories while eating breakfast. Guilin's thoughts while eating breakfast. Despite him thinking his actions of eating are undisturbed. Currently using his spoon to push the carrots and green beans to the corner of his plate. Intending to secretly throw it away when he returned his plates. We are the third batch. The first batch has no successful result. The children of that batch all died. That's to be expected. The second had 3 semi-successful results. Though those 3 children are able to awaken special abilities, it seems one of them has gone insane, one completely loses his mind while the last has a slow response problem. While thinking he saw Xia Yi push his own plate to his, seeing this Guilin could only look up to see the boy who did the deed. With a deadpan face, Xia Yi looked at him. Guilin first acted scared like the original. Guilin is originally timid according to the memories he received. What do I? You want? Asked Guilin with a frightened face. Xia Yi's brow raises as stares at him. Looking at him with interest. Looks fake. Put on my plate everything you don't want to eat. You'll get punished if you have leftovers on your plate. Said Xia Yi. Hearing this, Li Sheng and Yi Zheng, who heard Xia Yi's world, flinched as they felt frightened. With almost tears falling from his eyes, Li Sheng looked in front of him at Xia Yi seated beside Guilin. But Xia Yi ignored his pleading gaze as his eyes were only focusing on the man beside him. Xia Yi said, "Just give me the carrots and green beans. You hate eating those anyway." Guilin stared at the young boy with cold eyes beside him. This boy, while looking so young, has detailed features of sharpness and perfection. Obviously, the type of guy who will grow up into a captivating, handsome man. His gray hair looks soft and away a familiar shade of moonlight when hit by light. Despite the coldness and distrust within those crimson eyes, his eyes were clear and gave a feeling of slight obsession. Seeing this, Guilin's eyes showed surprise for the first time in this world. Astonished Guilin, you. The sudden raise of Guilin's voice startled everyone and even caught the attention of the guards loitering around the cafeteria. Before anything else was said, Xia Yi suddenly pulled Guilin as he covered his mouth. He hid under the table before the rest moved their eyes on them, leaving the other 2 guys on the same table uncomfortable with the stars from around them. It didn't even take a minute for the usual surroundings to return to normal. Under the table, Xia Yi and Guilin stared at each other in silence. No one spoke at the beginning. It was only when Guilin spoke that the ice between them broke. "Guilin, can I speak with you privately tonight?" he asked, though the tone of his voice and his gaze left Xia Yi no other choice but to agree. "I will see you after the rest fell asleep," replied Xia Yi as he left to resume eating his breakfast. When Guilin returned to his seat, he noticed that on his plate, the carrots and the green peas had already disappeared. Then beside him he saw that Xia Yi took his empty plate to return it for cleaning. Guilin didn't stop Xia Yi from leaving, but his eyes observed the boy's figure until he left the area of the cafeteria. Their conversation was cut off after that meal time. On this day their group was not scheduled for a test, but they have classes. Few groups like theirs gathered in a classroom. The room is completely white including the chairs and tables. In front is a huge white board. Standing before the white board is a man in white gown. This white gown is something usually worn by doctors or those who work in laboratories. This man had an emotionless expression on his face, but his eyes showed intense observing gaze. Without waiting for all students, he started his classes in math and science, but the level of this education doesn't match the children's normal level of intelligence. It's a math and science lesson at middle school, high school and university level respectively. Obviously the goal of this class isn't to teach, but to filter the children's intelligence quotient. As the test they are currently answering is separated through those three levels. Guilin acted the way the original portraits himself. Slightly timid while looking around listless. He did so because he knew there are more cameras in this room than in the cafeteria. At least in the cafeteria Guilin took the spot which is the blind spot of the cameras of that place. Only the figure of his back was recorded in the cafeteria surveillance recording. Obviously Xiaoyi noticed the special positioning of the table Guilin had chosen, which is why he didn't speak a word and join him without a word in that table. Little Yizheng and little Li Xing just followed them because they are from the same group. In the institute group moves as a single team no matter where. Guilin's acting made it hard for those who didn't know him well that the soul inside the vessel had changed. Only Xiaoyi, who has been observing quietly from his seat, continues to stare at him despite his calm and cold fa.ade. He knew that this Guilin is the same as before but different at the same time. He knew that the one who pulled him under the table who was calm and indifferent at the same time is the new Guilin or the real one. Guilin, while keeping his act, didn't forget to glance around in a natural manner. He is observing what kind of majority the children's IQ quotient is. Obviously the children taken in by the institute are those whose IQ is above normal children. Though the children, because of inexperience, could not control their emotions from showing on their faces like fear and confusion. They still followed instructions obediently and listened to the lesson. Majority of the children inside the room could understand lessons in middle school level, some at high school and few at high school level, but there is a minority of children who showed emotions of not being able to understand a thing. Thankfully within his little group, little Yizheng seems to have the level of middle school. Little Li Xing at high school level, and as he expected little Xiaoyi's IQ level is beyond University 1. Seeing this, Guilin chose to portray that his IQ is only at the same level as little Li Xing. This is to make sure he could continue to observe Li Xing so he could complete his task. After the lesson the professor asked all children to leave as they have an hour of free time before the next lesson, but he didn't let those minority who failed even the sample test for middle level. Guilin and his group are about to leave when Li Xing, who is following him out together with Yizheng, speaks. He also noticed those children who were asked to stay. Li Xing asked, "Alan, do you think we'll still see those children again?" Guilin, who was asked, didn't answer, but they could see him opening his mouth to speak but hesitated. Yizheng, who could vaguely understand, just held Li Xing's hands with sadness in his eyes. Only Xiaoyi gave Li Xing a straight answer. Xiaoyi replied coldly, "Don't expect it. You wouldn't even see them in the next lesson." After saying that, he grabbed Guilin's hands and pulled him away. Seeing that they are leaving, Yizheng and Li Xing gave a last glance at those children before following the first pair with heavy steps. Even though they may have some guesses of what would happen to those children, they could do anything about it. As they themselves didn't know how they could survive in this hell. Chapter 64. 4.2 Blue Star. Sole domain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Evening. Institute's Children's Dormitory. Group 0373's room. The white room is covered in silence as the children inside were laying on their beds asleep. But in the middle of the night, while everyone else is asleep, a small shadowy figure of a boy appeared beside Xiaoyi's bed looking at him. Xiaoyi, who was lying on his bed, suddenly opened his eyes and pulled the person in front of him to his bed, covering themselves with the blanket. Inside the blanket, two boys looked at each other. Crimson and blue-green orbs staring at each other. Both of them showed no hints of emotions on their faces, but their eyes and hearts said otherwise. The garnet orb shows distrustful yearning mixed with confusion upon seeing the exquisite figure before him. Meanwhile, the orbs with the shade of the color of sky and forest showed bewildered yearning and disbelief in response. Both their heartbeats were out of control, beating erratically. After such long silence, Xia Yi opened his mouth about to speak only for a small hand cold to cover his lips. A nasal sound couldn't help, but comes out from his nose, but he immediately calms down his astonishment as he uses his special ability to read the mind of the little one in front of him. The small hands were then separated from his mouth. Mind reading. This is one of Xia Yi's special abilities. An ability to read the mind of certain people whose mental strength is weaker than his, or to those who intentionally let him enter their mental domain freely. In this case, Guilan is the latter. Guilan, as transmigrator, his mental strength is above those of original residents of the world. Moreover, the main character's original soul had the strength of a heavenly being. I know what kind of abilities you have. I have the same kind of ability but different from yours. I can use telepathy. I wish to use it on you so we could speak through our mind. Please blink once if you agree. Thoughts of Guilan which Xia Yi had read using his mind-reading ability. Xia Yi's eyes widened in surprise, but it only took a moment for him to accept it. He is not egoistic enough to believe that only he had such a special kind of ability. Just the fact that this institute is gathering children to do human experiments with regards to the human brain. He knew that he wasn't the only one in the world who had been born with a natural special ability. He blinked his eyes once, showing his agreement to Guilan's request. Guilan, who saw the boy before him blink, gestured once again to the boy to read his mind. Our foreheads need to touch once to build connection. Please don't reject the link or it will be bad for me. Don't worry, my ability cannot hypnotize someone. It only allows me to create a link with someone else and make a connection for mental communication. A/N, telepathy, the supposed communication of thoughts or ideas by means other than the known senses. Xia Yi blinked once again to show his agreement. Guilan, upon receiving permission, could only reach out his small hands and held Xia Yi's cheeks, keeping it from moving. Guilan gets closer and bumps his forehead on Xia Yi's with his eyes closed. Only Xia Yi's crimson eyes continue to stare at the delicate face which is an inch away from his. Xia Yi closed his eyes as he felt something in his mind. Soul domain. Xia Yi opened his eyes in a space-like place. The place is filled with darkness, full of stars, and below him is water which reflects the starry sky. The whole area is darkness. If not for the stars that sparkles on the sky, there will be nothing that could illuminate the place. The place gives Xia Yi the feeling of desolation, untainted beauty, and endless silence. Moving around, Xia Yi walked towards the center of the place where he saw a huge and tallest white tree. This tree's heights seem to touch the sky like a single white line that connects the earth and heaven. This scene seems mystical, but looks natural in his eyes. He looks around to look for the figure of the boy who pulled him in such a place. As Xia Yi gets closer to the white tree, he sees a child figure sleeping at the hidden roots of the tree. Under the tree is a cumulus of clouds looking like a cushion as the child laid to sleep. But the appearance of the child is different from Guilan's original color of sea and forest. This child has the color of darkness. Deep obsidian, silky hair. Even the features of this boy are levels ahead of his outside appearance. An otherworldly beauty, as if he isn't a human being. His skin is like a white jade polished to perfection, and his phoenix-shaped eyes give a slight hint of seductiveness with a long feather-like eyelashes which gives him a feeling of wanting to reach out to touch. His sleeping figure gives away the same exquisiteness of an ice figure with a life-like sculpture. Like how the glacier gives the feelings of purity and cruelty. Letting his urge control his body, Xia Yi's hands reached out slowly to gently touch that smooth thin ice-like cheeks. As his fingers landed on, he could feel the warmth that signifies life of a living being. Xia Yi murmurs, "It's warm." His low, slightly childish voice echoes in that world of darkness. Then he moves his finger to play with those soft eyelashes like he is playing with feather strands. Soft but firm. And as if hearing him, the sleeping figure before him languidly opened his eyes, revealing the color of the deep blue sea whose horizon is endless. Xie Ye's eyes widened, but it wasn't of shock but because of the sudden feelings of attraction and yearning. He could feel his heart beating out of his control. As their eyes met, a spark that numbed his body was felt all over. He almost couldn't stop himself from pulling the boy into his embrace. He instantly retracted his outreached hand and took 2 steps backwards as he averted his eyes from those sapphire eyes, and then he heard a mellow but playful voice. Guilin spoke, "He. You're able to enter my soul domain." Amazing, there's a hint of laziness in his tone. He sat up as he observed the boy with orbs with the shades of glittering galaxies within those endless darkness. The voice is something he never heard before, but it leaves him the feeling of familiarity. It is not Guilin's voice, but his way of speaking is the same as that of Guilin from the cafeteria. Feeling estranged, Xie Yi moves his head to look at that figure only to see him smiling. His smile seemed sweeter than honey, and within those celestial blue eyes were emotions of yearning and passionate love. Seeing this, Xie Yi's heart almost leaped out of his chest. Unbearable, making him breathless. Why? Why is your appearance different from before? Asked Xie Yi. Xie Yi saw Guilin suddenly raise his eyebrows as if slightly startled, then he heard him giggles as if he heard something funny. He, it seems you haven't seen your appearance yourself, replied Guilin. With a wave of his hands, ripples appeared under their feet. A mirror-like reflection on clear water appeared before Xie Yi. Then he saw his current appearance. Looking at his face, he could see that it was different from his original appearance. Dark obsidian hair and irises with gallant dark eyes whose depths show horizons of endless galaxies. Xie Yi was astonished upon seeing his current appearance. This is, said Xie Yi in shock. Guilin stood up from where he is and walked towards Xie Yi. The water mirror drops as Xie Yi finishes looking at his face. Guilin could only give him an explanation. This is a soul domain. My soul domain. Inside of this place only someone's soul is able to enter. Your current appearance is the original features of your soul. It is different from what is outside. As the body is an embodiment of mixed genes from our predecessors. In layman's terms, our parents, explained Guilin. Xie Yi, why did you pull me in this place? I thought you only needed to create a link in our minds. His face remained calm as if nothing could move him. If Guilin didn't see the turmoil within those black eyes, he would have thought this person really doesn't care for him. Deep within those eyes were chaos of emotions. Bewilderment, distrust and yearning. He ignored all those and held the left hand of the latter. He continues to speak as he moves his fingers with movements of tying something. Xie Yi, despite his confusion, allowed Guilin to do whatever he wanted. He could understand the meaning of his emotions yet, but he unconsciously let the person before him do whatever he wanted to him, leaving his cautious and distrustful nature to be left in silence. Okay, I'm done, said Guilin as he finished what he wanted to do. Xie Yi lifted his left hand only to see his little pinky tied up with a red gold string. The other side of the string is connected to Guilin's right little pinky. He then saw Guilin raise his right hand for him to see. Guilin, this is the link I've made. As long as you speak in your mind, I should be able to hear it. There is no limit of distance, but it will depend on me whether I want to reply or not. By the way. Before Xie Yi could lift his head to look at Guilin, he suddenly felt a force pulling him out of the space. In his last moments of consciousness, he heard Guilin's voice lingering in his ears. I am not the one who pulled you here. You've entered on your own without me knowing. Only a part of your soul is awake, but your obsession still exists. Xie Yi was suddenly engulfed with darkness. With slight dizziness in his head, he groggily opened his eyes to see no one in front of him. Guilin, who is supposed to lay beside him, suddenly disappeared. He felt his heart sink as he sat up listlessly looking around for Guilin's figure. He finally feels what fear is like. His eyes were swimming around as he could even hear the loud beats of his heart. When he thought that his control is about to arrive from madness, he heard Gui Lan's voice. In front of him Gui Lan shadows towers him while the person itself stood in front of him holding a glass of water in his hand. Gui Lan could see the cold sweat on Xia Ye's face. Seeing his current expression made him feel a bit guilty. He was intending to wait for him to wake up, but he got thirsty. It usually takes time to come out from a soul domain, especially if the space isn't your own. Seeing Xia Yi's ashen face, he felt worried that the latter might have experienced some backlash when he pushed him out of his soul domain. Putting the glass of water at the side table, Gui Lan took out a clean handkerchief from the inventory space to wipe Xia Ye's sweat gently. Even when his system is not around, Gui Lan is still able to use the system mall. After exchanging 3 redeeming tickets for a red string of fate, he now only has 4 tickets for redemption. He took the clean handkerchief from his personal items stored in the system's inventory. Gui Lan asked worriedly, "Are you okay?" Xia Ye's chaotic emotions subsided upon seeing Gui Lan's worried expression. Seeing this, Xia Yi feels what care and kindness are for the first time. He held the slender wrist which could be broken with slight strength. The pulse that lingers in his fingertips made him feel the life of another. He could imagine the endless flow of blood that just took one hard bite on such a pale wrist, but by doing so he will lose this precious living thing in his hands. He didn't wish to lose it, and he could only control the madness in his mind. He let go of the other's wrist and could see the traces of his grip on such a pale skin. And then he looks at Gui Lan with tenderness he never expected to come from him. Xia Yi spoke, "Had a nightmare. I'm afraid. Can you hug me in my sleep, Lana?" Silence ascends between them, but Xia Ye's silvery orbs never leave the figure of Gui Lan before him. He didn't speak at all but waited for the latter to speak. There's no impatience in his eyes, as if he could wait for eternity for the one before him. Seeing the childishness on his beloved's face, Gui Lan chose to spoil the other like he had always done before. He is willing to indulge to his every request, no matter how weird it was. As long he would stay by his side. Gui Lan showed a helpless but doting smile while staring at the person before him. In this world he met his man too soon. It is usually his beloved who caters to his every whims. Now he is willing to pamper this young husband of his to every single request. "Okay," replied Gui Lan as he laid on the bed with Xia Yi in his embrace. The child wraps his arms around the other's body, seemingly afraid he would disappear all of the sudden. Gui Lan could only hug the child back and pat his back gently, soothing the child to sleep as he hums a lullaby to his ears. The humming of his precious person is calming. As if his heartstrings were tranquilized, Xia Ye's eyelids slowly close while the scent of sweet peppermint enters his nose, soothing his mind. Then before he falls in complete slumber he heard an alluring voice lingering in his ears saying, "Sleep, my love." A moment before Xia Yi entered Gui Lan's soul domain. Seating at that soft cotton like clouds under the tall tree. Gui Lan was deep in his thinking that he didn't even notice himself muttering his thoughts aloud instead. "I was hasty just now. Just because you isn't around for me to ask whether this child is my husband in this world, I didn't think twice before taking control of his consciousness. Should I pull him over in my soul domain? But I never like strangers entering my domain, it makes me feel dirted. If it's my husband's soul then it wouldn't matter, but if that child's soul isn't Axia, I might not be able to hold back the urge to eliminate it. Shit. I've never been this irrational in my life. Fuck. Does loving someone lower one's IQ? After throwing tantrums here and there, Gui Lan finally gets tired of it and lays on the soft mattress-like thing under him. Gui Lan, upon pulling Xia Ye's consciousness out of his body, he didn't let the latter enter his soul domain right away. After all, a soul domain is someone's most inner part of his soul. Any damage done in this domain is inflicted upon his soul. An injured soul can cause weakness in the vessel to appear like being overly sick or detrimental in the mind. Tisk, forget it, I'll take a nap first. Unable to make his decision, Guilan first thought of ignoring it. After all, there is no concept of time within the soul domain. After he fell asleep, he was suddenly awakened by someone's touch landing on his cheeks. Obviously it's a finger. Just rage almost blew up until familiar gentle but teasing caress on his eyelashes was felt. In his life there is only one person who likes to play with his eyelashes while he sleeps. It was only that person. The man he gave his everything to. He slowly opened his eyes, controlling his excitement and expectations. As the blurriness in his eyes dispersed, what welcomed him were those similar-looking features, especially those gorgeous obsidian orbs filled with stars and countless galaxies. Even without his system's remarks, he is sure that this child's soul before him is that person's soul. Knowing this, Guilan's emotions surge with uncontrollable yearning and satisfaction. Found you, my love. Thoughts of Guilan behind his sweet but enchanting smile. Chapter 65. 4.3 Third Blue Star. Supernatural abilities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Morning Institute dormitory. Guilan was awakened by the noise in his surroundings. He could hear the clattering childish voices of children. Why do they sleep together? Are they that close? Looks comfortable to me. What are you looking at for as? Axing, let's sleep together as well. It's so cold at night and the blanket is so thin. Please, no too crowded. It's fine. I'll give you half the space. If we hug like them we will fit as well. It's almost winter. It's too freezing. Fine. If you dare squash me, I'll kick you off the bed. Don't worry Axing, I won't squish you, I promise. The last voice had the tone of being angry and annoyed. Noisy. If you woke up Lana I'll beat you both up. But it's almost time for breakfast, we need to prepare. SHSS. Axing SHSS. I don't want to get beat up. Then silence once again filled the room. Guilan took his time to sleep, but he still woke up after 15 minutes of extended sleeping time. Opening his eyes he saw that he was still hugging Xie Yi. As he looked up their eyes met and just gave Xie Yi a smile with a greeting. Good morning. Sweeping the stray strand of hair on Guilan's face, morning, Lana. Wash your face and take a bath. I'll take mine after yours, said Xie Yi. Let's take a bath together. It's almost time for breakfast. No more time to spare, replied Guilan as he prepares to head to the bathroom while pulling Xie Yi together with him. Xie Yi let himself get pulled by the former as they ignore the bystanders in the corner who are watching them in silence. Have they been this close, said little Yi Zheng. It's better if they are close. Though they used to be both detached, at least they are a bit approachable now than before. Moreover, we need their help if we really plan to escape. Explained little Li Xing. Bewildered little Yi Zheng, what do you mean Axing? He asked with confusion in his mind. Little Li Xing spoke, obviously they are both smarter than I do. But they both took a different approach to gather information. Xie Yi chose to put himself to spotlight and gather data up front, while Guilan took a silent stance while observing everything and remembering anything. If I am not wrong, Alan is the smartest among all three of us. He changed. He used to be timid and cowardly. Alan used to be scared of Xie Yi, but now. But now what? Asked little Yi Zheng. Little Li Xing looked at little Yi Zheng's innocent face and could only sigh. Thoughts of Li Xing. But now they unconsciously treat each other like a family. But in a different kind of feeling. In a much more intimate way than familial love. I'm talking nonsense. Forget about it. On today's exams make sure to limit yourself to middle school level, okay, said Li Xing. Little Yi Zheng didn't understand the meaning of Li Xing's words and just agreed without question when the latter changed the topic of their conversation. Okay. I will, replied little Yi Zheng. Little Li Xing stared at the closed door of the bathroom. His eyes show confusion and disbelief, but there are also hints of anticipation and hope. Their group had been taking regular lessons on math and science for a week. They were getting used to it until their little group of 4 was finally mentioned to undergo practical training, which in real meaning, experimental modifications or human experiments. The experiments were separated by categories of seeing, hearing, touching and smell. In experimentation of sight, upon entering the room the subject will be given a certain amount of time to look around the room. This includes looking through the things inside the place. Then the subject will be blindfolded with a black cloth while chained at a chair. On his head is a helmet-like thing with wires connected to it. The scientists will be letting him touch one thing for a few seconds and the subject will have imagined what kind of object that is. This thing is taken from among the other objects placed in the room from the start. He needs to tell them the object's characteristics. Color, size, texture, and what kind of object it was. There will be at least 10 objects and the subject needs to be able to guess at least 3 to be freed. If he guesses wrong, an electric current will pass through his head, numbing his nerves and brain cells as a significance of failure. Experimentation of hearing, the subjects of each group representatives were caged in a pure white room. Inside the room there is nothing. The walls were made of glass. No window and only a single door. Within the only brick walls are stereo speakers which frequency sounds. It was a glass cage. The lights will be turned off according to the schedule to begin. As the lights turned off, levels of frequency beyond human hearing will be played inside the room. The subjects were subjected to listen to the sound for a whole day. Even if they covered their ears, the sounds can still be heard. They could only suffer from feeling as if someone was digging directly in their ears. Subjects were only free to return the next day. That's if they are still alive by then. Experimentation of smell. A subject is tasked to put a fiber-like collar on their necks. Eyes blindfolded, the head of the subject is put inside a glass box. The glass box is split 2 halves by a glass wall with numerous small holes. At the first box is the subject's head, while the other box is where the object they will need to guess by scent will be placed. Not all things placed within the second box are normal. Some of it can cause nauseating feelings, dizziness and sometimes suffocation. Most of it is chemical or compound things. If the subject got it wrong, the collar on their neck tightens, preventing them to breathe properly. Lastly, experimentation of touch. This is another group experiment. Subjects were tied up on a chair blindfolded and even their ears were covered. That helmet thing is placed on their heads as well. The subjects can only sense things through touch. This type of experiment is the cruelest among all the experiments. Subjects were tasked to hold hands. Then electricity will be felt from the chair they were chained to. They were not allowed to let go of each other's hands. If they are going to let go, it must be done as a group. Else, if it's just 1 or 2, the minority will feel electric shock not only in their whole body, but even in their heads. Subjects will have to bear it until the electricity is cut off. Failure in this experiment means only death. Today, their group was told that their batch will enter a trial run. Together with the other groups, they were told to choose individually what kind of room they would like to experience. The adults spoke as if they were tasked to participate in field activities, when it is only at the pretense of field exercise that those experiments were called as. It is a trial run. There is no fear of failure yet. The time will be limited to an hour or few minutes. As if giving the children some heads up of what they will be experiencing. Afterwards, a few days later, their group will have to undergo a full experiment as one. They had no other choice but to accept the reality by then. After lunch, the children scheduled for the experiments were gathered in a huge gym-like room. The place is empty except for a stage at the center, a projector screen. The children were huddled up in teams of 4 to 6. A small group of children with lifeless eyes were looking at the larger group with a mixture of emotions. Envy, rage, guilt, and sympathy. They were observing the groups at the center in silence. This smaller group only has 10 members. Some of them stood in pairs, some were alone. Among these children a pair were obviously observing the larger group with unknown intent hidden within those eyes. Meanwhile within the larger crowd, a small group of 4 huddle in a desolated corner with the surveillance camera's dead angle, holding their partner's hand. Xie Yi is holding Gue Lan whom he tried his best to hide behind him. Standing beside him is Yi Zheng with a listless expression on his chubby face while gripping the hands of Li Xing. Of course, he copied Xie Yi as he hid the small figure of Li Xing behind his back as well. Yi Zheng have been copying Xie Yi's actions lately. Not only Li Xing noticed it, but even Xie Yi and Gue Lan did too. Li Xing asked him the reason once and the answer Yi Zheng gave startled the rest of the group. A short conversation at a certain evening. Li Xing asked, why do you copy Xie Yi's actions? The bewildered innocent Bun, little as replied, because I saw that Xie Dages is a resolute person. There is always a meaning in his every actions. His answer startled the other 3, especially Xie Yi, who felt that he is being seen through by this Na.ve boy. A frown appeared on his little face beside him. Gue Lan is smiling as if understanding what Yi Zheng's words meant. He is aloof, but not totally. He is especially different towards Alan. His characteristics are that he has an unwavering will, decisive and kind at certain people like us and Alan. His presence is overwhelming, but even though it is there one couldn't perceive it. The kind of feeling as if something is missing. No more like, incomplete, explained Yi Zheng, but they can obviously see that this guy wears a confused expression on his face. It is like the words he just said are something he felt through his instincts instead of using his brain to think through it. As if he had some realization, Li Xing pointed at himself and said, how do you see me? Explain it like how you did with Xie Dage. Axing is. I can see that you are smart and cautious. A silent and traceless investigation, but still remains as a bystander. You like to observe people and for some unknown reason you can see their connections to each other instantly even without knowing them personally. Like how you told me that Xie Dage and Alan despite being strangers at first to be somewhat connected with something but unable to see through it, which is weird. Thought all in all you have a kind heart and soothing presence. Little Li Xing's adorable face slightly reddened when he heard how Yi Zheng concludes his characteristics. Gue Lan asked with a mischievous smile on his face, how about me? Zheng.ge, how do you see me as? Yi Zheng flinched when he heard Gue Lan asking him despite the question not being different from what Li Xing had asked. There is a short silence between them. Obviously everyone can see that Yi Zheng is hesitating on how he should explain Gue Lan's characteristics. He is especially giving Xie Yi some glance as if gauging his reactions. As if he instinctively knew that once he spoke some words wrongly about Gue Lan that Xie Yi would definitely beat him up for it. Xie Yi spoke, just explain. Even if you speak nonsense I won't get angry. Don't worry Zheng.ge, I won't let I beat you up. I promise, said Gue Lan. You promise, okay, said Yi Zheng, who only took a deep breath to calm himself once he saw Gue Lan nod his head. Alan is like a broken mirror. Everyone can see his reflection, but not his whole figure. He is like a fragment glass with different shapes. None of it was true, but none of it was false either. It reflects what you want to see, but it never shows the real truth. But within that falsehood is a bit of truth. That truth is thorny and beyond the others. Even I couldn't see through it completely. Yi Zheng was staring at Gue Lan with a perplexing mixture of expression on his face. All of a sudden he moved his gaze from Gue Lan to Xie Yi alternately with an even more muddled expression on his face. Only when Alan is with Xie Dage that I was able to see it in a very short moment. Just a flicker. Xie Yi spoke, what did you see? A never-ending darkness full of beautiful sparkling things. Like an illusion that plays tricks at me. But at the center of everything is a person's figure. This figure gives the same feeling as Yi Jing didn't complete his word but he stared at Xie Yi. Everyone can see that the figure Yi Jing saw through Gui Lan is without doubt Xie Yi. His explanation only had two meanings. Gui Lan is unreadable and that his truth revolves only around Xie Yi. Hearing this explanation, Gui Lan just smiles then pats Yi Jing and Li Xing's shoulders. Not bad. Your abilities are very useful. You were born with it like I. But don't let anyone in this institute learn about it or else every one of us will be dragged down to hell. I want to take a shower. I explain it to them, said Gui Lan, who left preparing to take a shower before going to bed. The pair of two who were left there speechless by Gui Lan's words looked at the person who was told to stay and do the explanation instead, Xie Yi. First question. How did you get to this place? Asked Xie Yi. Yi Jing, adopted. I'm from the orphanage. Li Xing, sold off by my parents. How about you and Alan? I'm the same as Yi Jing. But Lanner's situation is different, he was kidnapped. He came from a well-known family. He said that he was here because of internal conflict within his clan. Enough of this. Since Lanner choose to accept you, then I would as well. I will begin the explanation. Before that, do you know where we are? Said Xie Yi. Yi Jing answered him with a shaking head, but Xie Yi never expected a useful answer from this boy. Among their group of four, they knew that even though Yi Jing's IQ is above average and his physique is tough, he is the type that knows nothing and notices nothing about the things around him. His only advantage is that he is adaptable. Some kind of hidden place where they gather children for human experiments, said Li Xing. What? Exclaimed by the shocked innocent Bun Yi Jing. Not bad. As expected of someone who was born with photographic deduction. Your ability to figure out connections in whatever you are investigating and processing them extraordinarily fast is indeed a very useful mental ability, said Xie Yi. Then he looked at Yi Jing, then clicked his tongue, while this fool had the ability called mortality viewing. Though it seems currently useless for his type. Mortality viewing. What kind of ability is it? Asked Li Xing. An ability to peer into a person's inner self to determine character. His ability is amazing but dangerous for a loud-mouthed person like him. You should train him not to speak things he shouldn't say, said Xie Yi. I will, replied Li Xing beside him. Innocent Bun Yi Jing couldn't understand the exchange of his friends before him, wearing a bewildered foolish expression on the sidelines. Seeing his expression, Li Xing and Xie Yi could only let out a helpless sigh. In the end, choose to ignore the latter. Xie Yi decided to ignore Yi Jing and explained everything to Li Xing. He even told them his ability to read minds, which startled the two. But when they've asked what Gui Lan's ability is, Xie Yi only answered that they will know in the future. Xie Yi also told them his and Gui Lan's plans to escape, which leads to the other two in helping with gathering information secretly. Only Li Xing thought Yi Jing was ignored for this part. They haven't completely gathered the information they needed when they were suddenly called in the gym, which now leads to the current situation. Ignoring the sweating hands which grips his own, Li Xing looked at the one beside him. Obviously the one who makes the decision in their small group is the youngest and smartest among them, which is Gui Lan. Li Xing whispered, "What's happening, Alan?" he asked. As he whispered that question, even Xie Yi and Yi Jing, who were standing in front of them, heard it. When Yi Jing was about to turn around and asked as well, that he heard Xie Yi's stern voice. Xie Yi, stand straight. Don't turn around. Just use your ears to listen, he said to Yi Jing, who was standing beside him. Yi Jing immediately stood up, continuing his duties as a firm and tall wall. Xie Yi and Yi Jing stood in front of the smallest pair from the other's eyes. This will allow the two to look around without the others noticing. Axing, don't let go of Zhe.Ge's hands. I'll create a link in your minds, don't reject it, whispered back by Gui Lan. Once Xie Yi heard this, a frown ascended on his face as he squeezed Gui Lan's held hand with his. His reaction signifies rejection of Gui Lan's plan. Gui Lan knew why the former squeezed his hand. Xia Yi doesn't want Gui Lan to have intimate and closer interaction with the two like what he did to him that night. Telepathic conversation of Xia Yi and Gui Lan. Gui. Calm down. It is only a temporary connection. Yours is permanent, which is why I needed an intimate distance. For a temporary one, only a short touch is required. Xie. Touch above the clothes. No skin contact. Gui. Pft. Yes sir. End of telepathic conversation of Xia Yi and Gui Lan. Gui Lan using his free hand grabbed Li Xing's arm covered by his sleeves and activated his psychic ability. He created a temporary connection in their brains, making a group connection within their minds. This will allow them to converse using their thoughts. Li Xing and Yi Zheng only felt something invading their mind with a short span of prickling pain in their brains followed by a slight numbing feeling. It took them a while to sense the other's thoughts as a group. Li Xing understood immediately what kind of ability Gui Lan possessed. Telepathic conversation of people from room 0373. Li, this is E. W.H. His mouth was covered by Xia Ye's hand in reality as he almost exclaimed loudly in shock. Xie. Speak in your mind. Not with your mouth, you fool. After removing his hand to Yi Zheng's mouth, he used the same hand to hit the fool on his head. E. Oh Li, Alan, your ability is telepathy. This is amazing. How long will it last? Gui. This one lasts for a day. Starting now, if you need to say anything, use this link. I'll keep it open, but this one is set as a group. Keep in mind that everyone can hear what you wish to say. Xie. Lana, what do you think about those guys observing by the side? Gui. Judging from their expressions, they are the remaining children from the batch before ours. E. Batch before ours. Li, only 10 remains from 200 children. This is bad then. Gui. Not really. According to the information I had gathered, we are already the third batch. No survivors for the first batch. Only 3 for the second batch. If there's already 10 survivors for the first screening, then there's a higher chance of survival to this batch. Xie. This still doesn't mean that the experiment is humane. E. Do they take us as their guinea pigs or something? Gui. No. Guinea pigs are those from the first batch. We are already called experimental subjects. A/N. What Gui Lan means is that the first batch is treated as animals. The scientist treats them as guinea pigs and there was no need to worry about their lives, as they see those children from the first batch as lab rats. In short, they are just lab animals with no human life to care. While Gui Lan calls their batch experimental subjects because scientists will treat them as precious subjects while trying to make sure they can live at least. Incidents during the experiments are called failure. Failed experiment means death of the children. Chapter 66. 4.4 Third Blue Star. Manipulated Chaos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Silence filled the telepathic conversation of the group. Even though both words of Gui Lan and Xia Yi were straight to the point and almost merciless, the other two, Yi Zheng and Li Xing, knew that what they've said is true. This institute is not made for charity, but for a hidden agenda of human modification and experiments. It just happens that they, the children, were the subjects for it. Ignoring the awkwardness in their group connection, Gui Lan started to issue orders. Xie. What's the plan, Lana? Gui. I need more information. Could you read the minds of those 10 children at the sidelines? Xie. I can. Gui. Read deeper if you can, but don't overdo it. Transfer it to this link. We'll help you filter it. Xie. Okay, Gui. Keep a column in your thoughts. One for keeping and one for erasing. ZHE.GE Please don't give too messy comments during the process. We can hear your thoughts right now. Lee, understood. E. I bet I'll try to hold back. Xie. One punch for one useless comment. E. Hi. Empty the mind. Empty the mind. Empty the mind. Gui. Snort asterisk if you emptied it, how can you help with filtering? Lee, calm down, as. Xie. I'll begin. I'll do it one at a time. Xie closed his eyes for a moment as he controlled his mind-reading ability while not interfering with the group mental connection Gui Lan had established. At first, when Xie used his mind-reading ability to one of the children by the sideline, he hesitated to pass it to the group mental link. Only Gui Lan, who was holding his hand, noticed the changes on Xie. The hands that held him suddenly turned cold as if bloodless. It was trembling uncontrollably. Seeing this, Gui Lan immediately pulled Xie and forced the latter to face him. Everyone in their group could see Xie's face turning pale, and there's countless cold sweats converging on his face and whole body. They knew whatever Xie found within that target's memories is something that could even affect Xie's calm mind, and shook his core. Gui Lan had forgotten that even though Xie is his husband of this world, the age is still so young. It didn't take a while for the memories Xie had read from the target to flow in the group connection. Endless screams of pain and agony rang within their heads. It was that child's experience. Without control, the traumatic memories of the target were shared to all four of them. The memory Xie got from one of the children from the first clearance. Ah! Stop! Stop! No! It hurts! Hurts. Ah, I'm sorry. Sorry. No. Hiya. I can do it. Please. Give me time. Hurts. Aha. Save, someone. Anyone save me. I can't do it anymore. In the end. No one came. In the end, Gui Lan could only forcefully cut off the temporary connection of the group, even suffering backlash because of it. Gui Lan could even hear his head ringing loudly. The sudden cut-off of mental connection causes the other three to feel weak all over and then faint. Xie even stopped using his mind-reading ability as he lost consciousness. Seeing his group member fainting all of the sudden except for him, Gui Lan decided to overturn the situation forcefully if he must. Before the others noticed their group situation, Gui Lan exceeded the limits of his mental type special ability. Because of this sudden event, Gui Lan could only force himself to use his psychic abilities to its fullest. He combines all three mental type abilities in his mind, allowing it to upgrade another level. This force upgrade is not without consequences. He could feel an unimaginable pain in his head as if someone is drilling on his brain. After the level up, he opened up another mental type ability, which is control type, called Authority. It is the power to impose absolute commands upon any existence, even reality itself. He tried to use his telepathy and newly gained ability to control everyone's mind within the institute, especially towards the children inside the gymnasium. Of course, he also noticed the two gazes of the children at the sidelines who were watching him with shocked eyes. Once their eyes met, Gui Lan saw the two nod their heads in agreement to him, asking them to create chaos in the area. These two children avoided the surveillance camera and kicked the back of those other children standing with them by the sidelines. The kick wasn't weak, as few of them even bumps on the larger group with a huge force. Adding the fact that Gui Lan used his telepathic ability to allow their current thoughts to be shared randomly, it didn't take a while for a huge brawl to begin inside the gymnasium. In the midst of chaos, the two children who helped Gui Lan created the disarray run over to him. The two children seemed to be at the same age as Xie and Li Xing. The taller child with light brown hair and sharp but alert light blue eyes is currently frowning at him and the three who fainted beside him. The younger one has dark brown hair and eyes, wearing glasses, stares at him with an observing gaze. Gui Lan smiled at them and said, "Thanks for your help. I had destroyed the black box in the surveillance room, so there won't be any proof. The elder child introduces himself first, then next the younger. Su Luan. I'm Yunli. Guilan. Please leave the rest to me and just act as if you were trying to help us. The two nodded their heads. The glasses-wearing child called Yunli suddenly said, the adults were about to reach this room. Soon after, Yunli said that the doors of the gymnasium were pushed open and numerous adults in white gown and security personnel entered the place. As soon as they opened the doors, the adults were welcomed by the scenes of children fighting, some fainted on the floor, some were crying and some watching the show by the side. They've started to control the chaos inside. It didn't take a while for the adults to subdue the fighting children. Only the sounds of children crying echoes in the place. After separating the children who started the fight and those involved with it, the doctors and nurses of the institute checked on the children who got dragged on it without getting involved. One can see that some of the crying children were covered in wounds and bruises while some fainted. When a doctor saw Guilan and his group, they immediately approached them. As soon as the adults came nearer, Guilan suddenly started crying. They could see fear within those adorable aquamarine orbs staring at them. Some of the adults who already lost their temper with the other children tried to just grab him and force him to stop crying like how he did with other children. Damn! Stop crying already! This man tried to grab Guilan, but he was stopped by his other comrades. Slapping his friend's grubby hands, hey! It's just a child. The youngest among the batch. Stop it. TSK. It's not like we can protect them, the grumpy adult muttered. Shut up, the other man whispered back before smiling at Guilan. This adult man, whose height is a bit lacking than the grumpy adult in white robes, looks kind and slender, unlike the other one with a slightly muscular figure standing beside him. This is the grumpy man wearing the same white robes. Guilan, who was observing the two adults in front of him, suddenly noticed that these two men seemed to be familiar to him. No, it is more like the original Guilan has these two people's faces in his memories. Guilan's thoughts. These are. I see. With them here I could advance the escape plan ahead of time. The kind adult tried to wipe Guilan's tears with his robe, only for a small hand to grab his wrist. The smile on the kind adult suddenly stiffened as Guilan spoke to his mind using his ability. As observant as he is, the grumpy adult noticed the sudden changes of his partner and tried to pry the small hands gripping on his friend's wrist. He knew that children of this institution are not normal children. They are special kinds of children. They are able to control supernatural power. But before he could touch them, his friend grabbed his hands and shook his head, telling him to stop. But the kind-looking man didn't know that Guilan could extend his link to those whose person he made a successful link with. Telepathic conversation. Guilan and the two adults, Gui. I am from Gui clan. The heir to the minister's seat and the only child of Prime Minister Gui named Guilan. It's been a while. Agent K and Agent Q. Our dormitory room 0373 surveillance had long been tampered with me. I would like to speak with you both. Agent Q, young Master Lon, why are you here? Agent K, isn't this telepathy? I only know one person who has this ability. Gui. Bring the other children. They are all like me. Agent K. Agent Q, understood, end of telepathic conversation. Guilan and the two adults, once the secret conversation was done. The two secret agents acted normally as they were before. The kind-looking adult called Agent Q said, "Don't hurt the child." Tisk, fine. They don't look wounded at all. Just throw them back to their dormitories, replied the grumpy Agent K. Child, don't be afraid. We are just going to bring you guys back to your rooms, all right? Asked Agent Q. Guilan stopped his crying and nodded his head. Agent K and Agent Q carried the three unconscious children back to their rooms. Yunli and Su Luan followed them as well. Their actions seemed normal to the other staff members of the institute. Since there are many children who fainted and injured, the adults split up the work to look after the children. Those who were badly injured were brought to the infirmary while the rest were tasked to rest at their dormitory rooms. Dormitory room 0373. Once the three who fainted were brought back to their rooms and tucked on their beds, the rest who were awake gathered in the room. Yunli and Su Luan, who had met the two adults before them, were calm despite their vigilance towards the adults of the institute. On their way there, Guilan had already shared a part of his memories showing that these two adults were indeed secret agents who worked for the minister. They have also learned about Guilan's identity. There's only a short silence in the room until the grumpy adult spoke. Agent K, you've changed, young master eh? Didn't you used to be timid and shy before? Guilan gave this annoying adult a cold glance. Fa.ade my father asked me to use. Agent Q elbowed him in his side and left him in pain. Young master. How have you been? Why are you in this place? By the way, I am called Lin Yi and Agent K is called Kulu in this place. Guilan, whose eyes lingered longer on the sleeping Xie Yi, replied, second uncle through here. My father is cleaning up the house. Who gave you the orders to invade this place? Agent Q replied, third master's orders. We were ordered to bring out this child. He pointed at Yunli as he said that. Guilan only took a glance at Yunli. If I remembered it correctly, third aunt's surname seems to be Yun. Did he get thrown here by second uncle as well? Do you have a way to contact the outside? Agent K replied, every end-of-month scientists were allowed to go out for a day vacation. Though we are given tracer chips before we get out, I could hinder the tracer chip and give a false location. That is a week from now, said Agent Q. The plan will be done by this end of the month. I will make the preparation, said Guilan. Agent K and Agent Q stared at him. Agent K, I don't think you'll have any problems with the experiments because you're trained mentally by the head. These two children who successfully cleared the first clearing, those three behind might have a hard time. They can bear it. Despite going beyond the limits of tolerance, they will successfully clear it, replied Guilan. Agent Q, the success of the plan. Guilan answered, 100%. This branch will fall and the second uncle will be caught. We believe in you, young master, said Agent K. With you two added in it, the percentage of success exceeded 100%. This is why I put the plan ahead of time instead of doing it a month later as we had planned, said Guilan. You two should go back. My control within the institute is almost done. I have created a link with your brain, you can talk to me in your mind. I'll reply if I want to. Agent Q, will make it so these two could stay in this room. I would be making certain preparations for escape. Please send me the full blueprints in my mind later, said Agent K. Sure, replied Guilan. The two secret agents left the dormitory to resume their jobs as scientists of the institute. The truth is that these two were already here in this institute during the second batch of children. They had watched how those children cried in extreme pain and how they took their last breath while keeping an emotionless Fa.ade. They have also seen the scientists treat the children as if they were just lab rats with no human rights. Even the animals in slaughterhouses have better ends as they could instantly die without suffering or endless pain. But those children were tested and tested until their tears turned blood, their ear burst, lost every sense of living and even going crazy. But in the end they couldn't help them, much more save them, as they were currently doing their duties as secret agents. But meeting the genius of the minister's family, this child who was considered a genius ever since he was able to walk on his own, is different from others. He had seen his timid Fa.ade from before and thought that he was just an introverted genius of the clan. But seeing him right now, remaining calm in the midst of chaos and acting accordingly to the situation, they knew he could help them with a plan to save the children. Though they would have never expected that this human trafficking syndicate branch had involvement with the second master, they felt gloomy in anger, in disbelief. They wouldn't have thought that someone from the Regal would get involved himself to this kind of dirty and inhumane sin. They felt disgusted just thinking about how that person is able to put two of nephew in this kind of shit. While after the adults left, Yunli and Su Luan had a conversation with Guilan. As only the three of them were awake, they saw Guilan carrying Li Xing and placed him beside Yi Zheng, who immediately hugged the former to embrace in his sleep. It was an instinctive movement as this two always slept together ever since copying him and Xie Yi. Guilan was the first one to speak. "We can finally talk, huh?" He took a seat with the other two at the living room of the place. Though they call it the living room, it was just a small space in the corner of the room where they've laid a huge mat, placed a small table and put pillows surrounding the table. Yunli spoke, "Are you really my younger cousin?" "Yes. Thought you might not remember seeing me as I've stopped attending family dinners and banquets at the age of 3, replied Guilan. "Did you get kidnapped as well?" asked Yunli. "Yes. Second uncle's men. I heard you're missing a month before I've got kidnapped. So it was his doing as well. I want to see your past memories in this institute." "You wouldn't mind, don't you?" asked Guilan, who just wore a black gloves on his hands before laying it on the table with the back of his hand placed at the table's surface. "Guilan, I wore gloves so I could properly control my ability." "Do you have another ability aside from telepathy?" asked Su Luan. "Yes. A cognition type." "Please," said Guilan. Yunli and Su Luan, who understood what he wanted to do, placed their hands on the top. Then they saw the young boy before them closing his eyes as if concentrating. Few minutes later they saw his face turning ashen pale. His closed eyes slightly twitch, but for his breathing is calm. They know what kind of scene this person is seeing, and those scenes were their greatest nightmare. They don't know it feels to have telepathy as an ability, as there was completely under the intuitive mental type ability. Telepathy and precognition is under sensory type. Rumors say sensory type psychics were able to experience themselves what the target feels at that moment. If the target is a dead man, the seer is able to experience the moment the target had died themselves. It is like killing themselves. After a while Guilan opened his eyes and let go of their hands. Then looked calmly at them despite his ashen appearance. Guilan, Yunli experienced two kinds of experiments. Experimentation on hearing and touch. While Su Luan experienced three kinds. Experimentation on sight, touch and mind. I expected the first four. Sight, smell, touch and hearing, but the last one is even worse than the experiments on touch. He then looked at Su Luan. How much do you remember about yourself and background? I am a young master of a small clan. I have 2 siblings. A younger brother and elder sister. I got separated from my family in the amusement park and got picked up by a human trafficker and sold here. That's all I've remembered. Is there a problem with my memories? Said Su Luan. Yunli was wearing a confused expression while listening, as if not understanding what their conversation means. Guilan's face remained innocent as he portrayed, but one could see that the depths of his eyes were cold. He gave Su Luan a sly smile. Receive what Lin Yi will pass on you tomorrow, and then you will understand what I mean. Continue the talk for evening. The upper beds are yours, said Guilan, who headed to the bathroom to take a shower before joining the rest for a nap. Yunli and Su Luan had a short talk before separating and taking a short rest before night falls. They had a feeling that tonight will be a long talk. Chapter 67. 4.5 Third Blue Star. A glimpse of the future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dream. Guilan took a while before he entered sleep as he laid beside the unconscious Xie Yi. He closed his eyes on the bed intending to sleep while hugging the warm person beside him. In his slumber, a hazy feeling fills his body, feeling heavy and uncomfortable. Slowly he opened his eyes, revealing the pair of pearl orbs which had the shade of aqua. Guilan opened his eyes and saw 2 full-body mirrors in front of him. A black and a white one. Looking around him, he couldn't perceive the size of the place. The place is an endless white area with no bounds or horizon. Just simply white. The hazy feeling in his eyes pointed out that this is a pace similar to his soul domain, but it was not under his control. After all, this is a separate realm from the living. The dream realm, only a dream god can govern such a place. Even he is unable to muster his real capability in such a place, much less than most of his skills were sealed now except for few. Upon remembering his newly acquired ability before he entered this world, Guilin understood that it was his precognition skill at work. It was a dream that let him glimpse in the future. A normal user of this skill is usually only able to see a few seconds ahead of time. Most humans do, but who is he? Even without his complete memory, he knew that he isn't an ordinary existence. When he trained for the 2 cognition skills in the system's training ground, there was no limit in duration of how much he could see. He could even perceive an ordinary human's full lifetime if he wishes to, or see the future options of one's life can have. This familiar scene before him is that skill to see someone's future. That was the mirror he used as a medium to peek through the timelines of the future, which will not cause any disruption to it as long he chooses not to. But this is the first time 2 mirrors appeared before him. At first he was bewildered, seeing that his precognition skill had activated on its own, but upon remembering that his skills in cognition is a bit hard to control, Guilin knew it must have activated on its own after using the retrocognition on Yunli and Su Luan this evening. A/N, precognition, the power to perceive future events before they happen. On the other hand, retrocognition, the power to discern events of the past. Guilin forward until he was in front of the black and white mirrors. They sat before it to watch the scenes unfold. He first focused on watching the events in the black mirror. The pictures in the mirror unfolds, letting Guilin see the situation within it. Guilin saw the plan he and everyone made. The escape plan was successfully with the help of Guilin's father and his people who attacked from the outside. The Institute branch was destroyed and Guilin's second uncle was caught for his involvement to human trafficking and murder attempts to his 2 nephews, Guilin and Yunli. After that event, the scene continues to play. Guilin returned to his clan and Xia Yi came with him. They grew up together and not even separating much. As they grew into adulthood, the feelings they shared also matured from close friends to lovers. The minister accepted their relationship. In exchange, Guilin was removed from his position as the heir of the seat. Guilin and Xia Yi accepted this condition, and the minister had given them the freedom they'd wanted. The couple had left the minister's place when they decided to live on their own. With the inheritance Guilin received from his clan, he and Xia Yi had chosen to hide themselves from the world and didn't get involved in it at all. A new heir was chosen for the minister's seat, who leads a group to save and capture the other Esper suffering under Inferno Syndicate. Yizheng grew up and reached his destined position as chief of the Supernatural Investigation Department, SID. With the promise to meet, Li Xing and him separated that night when they successfully escaped. Li Xing was returned to the Li family while Yizheng was adopted by Agent K and Agent Q as their future successor. But unfortunately, Li Xing, who returned to his family, had suffered even worse than when he was in the institute. In the end, he died under the secret orders of his twin brother, Li Guang. When Yizheng first took his position as chief, he had sent an invitation to Li Xing to work with him as a partner, but at this time Li Xing was already dead. Li Guang, using the same identical face of Li Xing, came instead. He took Li Xing's identity, even tricking Yizheng into thinking that he is Li Xing. A/N Esper is an individual who uses scientifically based supernatural powers and emits AIM. SID, Supernatural Investigation Department, is a special police department. Their focus is about supernatural events that even the crime division is unable to solve. Most cold cases the crime division is unable to solve are those incidents involving ability users like Espers. Some Espers who were saved that day when the group escaped the Institute facilities after receiving counseling were gathered in a newly created division for Espers. Some agreed to join while the rest left and live in the city with the normals, non-ability user. The main facilities of Inferno remained unknown, and cases involving psychopath serial killers were ability users Inferno planned to use to spread the existence of espers to the world. Yi Zheng and Li Guang tried their best to capture all those psychopathic espers released by Inferno and at the same time look for the trails that will lead them to where the main members of Inferno syndicates hide themselves. But because Guilan and Xia Yi choose not to get involved with this, Li Xing, the real protagonist show of this world, died, and Yi Zheng, not having Guilan who helps him in surface and Xia Yi who helps in eliminate the enemies in the shadows, things had gone beyond his control. Some espers in his department were hypnotized and started leaning back to the syndicate. As most ability users were not really welcomed in the city, they were secretly retreating as monsters, especially those who can inflict damage mentally and physically like Guilan's abilities. In the first place, the former children in that institute branch sees Guilan and Xia Yi as their leader instead of the innocent and Na.Ve Yi Zheng of their group. Once these two disappeared, those that used to fear them started doing whatever they wanted. In the end, Yi Zheng died under the hands of Inferno's main force as he was protecting Li Guang. Li Guang without Yi Zheng's protection is no different from an ordinary person. After all, he really is not an ability user but just a normal person. He didn't have supernatural abilities. It just happened that he is a bit smarter than others and his memory is extremely good, but that it is all in it and nothing more. The Inferno Syndicate successfully spread the notoriety of espers in the world. It didn't take long for those ability users to take the leaderships in the country, controlling everything using their supernatural abilities. The downside is that espers from Inferno were cruel and merciless. They kill those they hate without question and harm normals as if they weren't from the same species. These events lead to population dropping and world destruction is imminent. When Guilan and Xia Yi return to the surface, everything is already beyond them. Xia Yi was killed, and when that happened, Guilan chose to destroy the world himself. Seeing the scenes that showed on the Black Mirror, Guilan almost lost his temper when he saw Xia Yi die miserably in that timeline. He didn't need to watch the other situation in the White Mirror. The events that unfold in it is what the world is destined to have. The group split up. Guilan returned to his clan and chose to separate with Xia Yi temporarily. He brought Yunli and Li Xing with him. Xia Yi, who woke up not seeing Guilan, had almost gone crazy, but under Guilan's orders some espers whose ability is to seal memories had used his ability on Xia Yi. His memories of Guilan and the other two were sealed. The same was done to Yunli and Su Luan. This is a seal that will unlock itself slowly when they meet once again in the future. Agent K and Agent Q decided to adopt the 3 remaining boys. Of course. This is under Guilan's orders. They were tasked to train the 3 to be not as secret agents but special agents that will take the lead for all other children espers like them. They knew that since Inferno's main quarters were not found, more and more man-made espers will appear thanks to this evil syndicate whose goal is world domination. Only when these 3 pairs made choices not in accordance to their emotions that the destined ending of this world would not be destruction. But before they reach adulthood they need to live their own lives first. Guilan doesn't need others to help him make a choice. He already made it on his own. Though once he woke up, the emotions of sadness filled his little heart. He closed his eyes as he made his decision, leaving that surreal realm of dreams. Evening. Dormitory room 0373. As Guilan opened his eyes from his sleep, tears strolls down on his face while dazed, scaring those other children inside the room seeing his current abnormal state. Especially Xia Yi, who was stiff as he looked at him with confusion and fear in his eyes. Unable to think of what he should do in this kind of situation when the most important person of his life showed such an extent of sadness. Li Xing and Yi Zheng approached the bed and looked over at Guilan with worry in their eyes. Even the newly joined pair, Yunli and Su Luan, watch him from the side in silence and surprise. After Guilan isn't the type to show his emotion on his face. Li Xing asked, "Why are you crying, Alan? Are you hurting somewhere?" Yi Zheng started running around looking for medicine. Panicking like a headless chicken, meds. Meds. Ah. What to do? What to do? Alan is crying in pain. Wah Yunli spoke, calm down. Su Luan, who grabbed the panicking little Bun Yi. Too noisy. Receiving two cold responses from his newly made friends, Yi Zheng looked like he was bullied as he stared at them. Li Xing could only pull him over so he won't act so foolishly again. On the other hand, Gui Lan, who finally got his emotions under control, could only hug the frozen little statue before him. With his current smile hidden within the embrace, his following thoughts are. Normally this person would pull me in a hug as long as he feels that I'm unhappy, but this is the first time I've seen him frozen because he didn't know how he should react. So cute. Xia Yi, who finally got over his shock, felt the warm body grab on him. He at first flinched before wrapping his arms around the small figure in his embrace while patting the latter's back in comfort. He thought that maybe Gui Lan is still frightened of his nightmare. Gui Lan hugged the other until he was satisfied. In a while he finally spoke up while rubbing his tummy. Gui Lan, I'm hungry. Xia Yi reached out his hand and rubbed Gui Lan's tummy without any change of expression on his cold face, though obviously one can see his gazes softening. The serene atmosphere between the two children was broken when they heard a loud stomach rumbling from the background. Looking for the source, they saw Yi Zheng's tall figure hiding behind Li Xing's small body while grabbing his grumbling tummy. Xia Yi stood up and didn't forget to hold Gui Lan's hand. Let's go eat dinner. The cafeteria should be opening soon. Leave the introduction for later, he said. Everyone was preparing to leave the room when a sudden announcement was heard in the dormitory. Ding! Dong! Announcement. The cafeteria will be open only for take out today. At least 2 representatives from each room are allowed to get the take out for the whole group. Cafeteria closes after 3 hours. I repeat. The cafeteria will be open only for take out today. At least 2 representatives from each room are allowed to get the take out for the whole group. Cafeteria closes after 3 hours. This announcement was made because most children suffered from the chaos that happened in the gymnasium this morning. There are lots who were injured, some even hurt their ankles and dislocated their bones, leading to them not being able to walk properly. The dormitory building is a bit too far from the location of the cafeteria, especially for those with injuries, to take such a long walk at their current states. Moreover, this institute had to make sure that their future subjects wouldn't be broken before they could even begin their experiments. Which leads to 3 days rest for the children and adults working in the facilities. From room 0373, the ones who volunteered were Xia Yi and Su Luan. Since Su Luan needs to meet the adult named Lin Ku, Agent Q, for the information Gui Lan asked him to prepare. He received the orders through a telepathy message before he and Agent K left the dormitory building this morning. Before the two left, Xia Ye lingers longer on Gui Lan while the latter just gave him his usual smile. Playful and cute, but for some reason seeing Gui Lan's smile made his heart unease. He couldn't understand or explain what the difference was from before. Thought just seeing Gui Lan's current smile gives him a forbidding feeling, as if something he doesn't like would happen. But despite that he couldn't ask the other person, Xia Yi knew that if Gui Lan doesn't wish to say anything he wouldn't even say a word at all. Forcing him to say it is even more impossible. So for now he could only keep his silence, waiting for the right moment to ask him what is the problem. Only in the near future that Xia Yi would realize that he should have asked the question his heart wanted to say. If only he did, then that wouldn't happen. After Xia Yi and Su Luan left, before they reached the cafeteria the two had first separated. Su Luan needs to meet Sir Lin Yi in his office before he joins Xia Yi in the cafeteria. Xia Yi took his time but didn't head straight to the place when they could get their food. Instead he roamed around secretly in the institute while avoiding the camera security and staff. The place he's heading for is that place he saw from the memories from the child of first group clearance. It was the test location for the experiments. Xia was only intending to peek through the location's escape routes in secret, but what he saw in those rooms shocked his young heart. The location he went through is the same place where Yunli and Su Luan had experienced the nightmare. Obviously the place is supposed to be all cleaned up and the people inside were doing a late-scheduled sterilization of the room. Xia hides his presence in the darkness shadow in that dim-lit hallway as he watches a group of adults carrying a black long bag which seems to be full of something. The bag is about to burst from its inside contents, and the zipper of the bag was left half open. The four adults were holding the four corners of the black bag. Xia while hiding in the shadows watched the men come out of a room. Because most of the lights in the hallway of this part of the building, it would be hard for people to accidentally trip into a potted plant on the hallway. Shit! It's so dark in this place. Could they leave a few lights on? Be careful. The lights on this floor are almost all turned off. Stop complaining. What do you think we are holding? Do you want others to see what's in the bag? Your voices are too loud. Shut it. I know. Hey. There's a pot on that way. It was too late when the other person heard his comrade's warning and he successfully tripped on the potted plant by the sides of the hallway. The man who tripped was holding on to the corner of the bag but accidentally let go of it when he tripped. The half-zipped bag fell on the floor with a loud sound and some of its contents fell out from the opening. What fell from the bag gave Xia the feeling of extreme fear for the first time. The thing that fell from the black bag is a cold dead body of a child. The child's eyes were wide open, almost falling from the socket. It was shaded in gray and lifeless. The expression on the child shows immense pain and fear in his last moments. The child couldn't even close his eyes before he took his last breath. There are traces of drool and foam on the corner of his mouth, blood trails on his nose and ears. Obviously this child had lost his mind in the process. Xia almost gasped loudly, if not because he covered his mouth on time. He hid his small body within the corner of the wall and darkness while holding his breath, not allowing anyone to catch his presence nor his breathing sounds. Fortunately the adults didn't notice his sudden movements. Tisk, watch it. Bring it back in. I know. I know. Why the hell are you shouting? Move fast. We are running out of time. The next scheduled cleaning should happen after a year or so. If not, because this cleanup task gives away huge rewards, who the hell would do it? Shut your mouth and get moving, if you want to get paid. It didn't take a while before the adult left the floor with the huge bag. Only when there is silence in the dark hallway that Xia finally took back his breath and gasped for a few moments. There's a nauseous feeling building up in his stomach but holding it back well. They are insane, muttered Xia with a slightly trembling voice. Only then he remembers those memories he saw from that boy who successfully completed the experiment's first clearing. Their almost lifeless eyes say it all of what kind of hell they suffered. Xia left that horrid place to meet back with Su Luan, take their food and return back to the dormitory. That nightmarish scene made him fear and realize that if they didn't pass those terrible experiments, that would be the same ending they would have. Chapter 68. 4.6 Third Blue Star. Short piece. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia didn't know how he got back to meet Su Luan. But one can see through the way he walks while avoiding most adults on the way, that something was wrong with him. He bumped on the grumpy-looking adult whom Guilan met before. This man was standing outside the office where he left Su Luan. It is the secret agent whose name is called Kolu. Obviously this adult recognizes him. Kolu smirked at him. Kid, finally awake, huh? Xia looked up at the owner of that teasing voice only to see that the adult before him wears the same white robes as those scientists from his memories. Guilan hasn't informed him about those two adults' identity yet. Which is why his reaction towards him, and with that event he just saw on that dark floor just now, his vigilance against adults working in the institute is quite high. Kolu noticed his guard specially up towards him, but he doesn't remember doing anything against the child. He then remembered where this kid just returned from. Kolu's thoughts as he looked at the direction where Xia Yi came from. It was the location for the experimental laboratory of the institute. Thinking that today is supposed to be cleaning day, his expression darkens. He finally understood the reason for the kid's heightened vigilance. Kolu stared down on the boy. Get used to it. You will die if you give up living. Accept your fears and fight for the future. The plan was moved ahead of time. You only need to suffer for a few days thanks to the young master. Whispered Agent K to Xia Yi. Of course the recordings around the office of the two agents were long tampered. They've been working in this place more than a year after all. Xia Yi only then understood that this adult before him seems to be an acquaintance of Guilan. Within their group only Guilan's identity could be equated to a young master of a certain clan. Though the latter didn't give him information about his family, it is enough to know that as someone from a high-class family that Guilan is different from the rest of them. Lawner must have changed the details of the plan if you guys are involved. He had long told me that if there's an adult to help us with the plan, it could be done within a month, unlike the original setting of waiting for half a year at least with just us children, said Xia Yi. TSK. If not for you guys, I think the young master would have left this place already. Him being kidnapped in the first place is an impossible feat, said Kolu before finishing his cigarette and entering the office of Lin Yi. As he entered the room, an ugly-wearing expression Su Luan went out of the office before him. Su Luan's expression is that of disbelief and anger. The information he got from Lin Yi about him is absurd enough for him to believe, but the proofs were laid before them. Unlike what he remembered, he doesn't have siblings. He didn't have a family. He is an orphan sold to this place by his aunt for money. He was treated as a bastard child. All of his original memories were replaced by the illusions of family this place had given him. Now he isn't even sure if his name is really Su Luan. Xia Yi acted like he didn't see his depression and anger. His face remained emotionless when he looked at him. This child's expression only changes in front of Guilan while it remains as blank as it is towards everyone else. The cafeteria is closing soon. Let's get our food and return to the room, said Xia Yi before walking away. His small figure walking in front had no intention of waiting for Su Luan. Su Luan only clicked his tongue once before following the latter to get their dinner. He could only consult the rest of his problem to Yunli or Guilan after eating. After dinner the people inside room 0373 gathered in a small circle. Though most of them were in pairs, seated at the side of the person with closest relationship to them. Li Xing sat beside the sleepy Yi Zheng. This child has always ended up sleepy after eating a heavy meal. Li Xing sighed, don't sleep yet, as. I will. Listen, replied Yi Zheng while rubbing his heavy eyelids. Guilan is seated in front of Xia Yi who is hugging him from behind. Ever since he felt unease this morning plus that nightmarish scene before dinner, Xia Yi had become even more clingy towards Guilan. The former on the other hand had let him do whatever he wanted. He was willing to indulge him with everything. Su Luan and Yunli sat together. Though they weren't as sticky as the two pairs, one could obviously see that Su Luan leans more in Yunli's direction than the others in the group. Guilan took the lead in the conversation even though he is the youngest among the rest. Guilan smiled, before everything else. Introduction is a must. I already did it before so let's start with I, he said as he looked up to peek at Xia Yi. Xia Yi. 9 years old. Ability. Mind reading. Li Xing 7 years old. My ability is photographic deduction. Li Xing, like everyone who was waiting for Yi Zheng's introduction, waited for him to speak only to see the latter half asleep with his head tilting left to right about to fall. Azichi, called Li Xing, his voice this time is obviously stern unlike before. The sleepy Yi Zheng flinched in astonishment. Why? Yes, I'm 8 years old. Yi Zheng is my name. Ability is mortality viewing. It is apparent that the half-asleep child was jolted awake by his friend's voice. Yun Li, 8 years old. Rhythm intuition, that's what my ability is called. It pertains to sounds. Ability. Survival intuition. Some intuitive type ability like Lear. My name is Su Luan. 9 years old. Everyone. These are Lun.Ge and Li. Ge. They were the ones who helped to protect you when you all suddenly fainted in the gymnasium. Li.Ge is my distant cousin and his friend Lun.Ge are close. So they should be considered as our new friends. They will also help with our escape plan. I, Axing and Zheng.Ge haven't met the other two people who will help us with our plan. The names were Lin Yi and Ko Lu. These guys are adults who work for my family. They are secret agents, said Gui Lan. Xia Yi spoke. The adult Lan'er is talking about, are they a kind-looking man in his mid-20s and a grumpy-looking adult with an old man temperament? Yes. Uncle Ko said through a telepathic message that you've spoken to him a while ago, replied Gui Lan. Bewildered Xia Yi asked, how did he? Xia Yi showed a small frown on his young face as if he heard something that annoys him. According to his memories, Gui Lan's temporary mental link using his ability only has the duration of a day, and once it was cut off, Gui Lan needs to create a new link. Even if the link was made this morning, it should have been cut off when Gui Lan had fallen asleep. After all, telepathy is an ability whose activated duration is according to what kind of link the core had created. A temporary link can last a whole day unless the Esper cuts off the link himself. On the other hand, a permanent link is made with connection through souls. Though the one in the dominant position is the caster, the connection between the two can last as long as the caster has this ability. It will only end if the caster cut it off himself. Moreover, temporary link has one downfall: it gets deactivated once the caster has fallen asleep or lost consciousness. Obviously Xia Yi remembered Gui Lan waking up just a few hours ago. In short, he had fallen asleep and the supposed temporary link was cut. But just now Gui Lan said that he heard from that old man, they've met. So Xia Yi is a bit confused with how things are. Seeing the weird expression on Xia Yi made him chuckles. He could guess what is going around this little guy's mind. I know what I is thinking. Don't worry, their case is different from yours, said Gui Lan as he held the warm arms cuddling him. His voice had a hint of playfulness and the tone is an obvious teasing. Knowing that he is being teased, Xia Ye's face reddened in embarrassment. He couldn't openly refute the one laughing in his arms and could only squeeze him in response to his teasing. Too tight. Can't breath. Stop squeezing me, complains Gui Lan, who started struggling from the arms around him. Xia Yi ignores his struggles and instead moves his hands, locking Gui Lan and placing it on his side. Then he started tickling him with a small smile on his face. This is the only punishment he could give this person. Laughing uncontrollably, stop. Ha 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 aye, screamed Gui Lan while giggling in between his words. After a few minutes, Gui Lan was finally freed from that laughing hell. He is currently panting in between his breath. Giving only a tear-filled eyes glared at Xia Yi before he started pouting. Seeing that he is about to get ignored by Gui Lan, Xia Yi had no other choice but to coax the boy in forgiving him. Xia Yi, Lan'er, don't be angry. I'm sorry, okay, he said with a coaxing tone of voice. Hump. I is bad. That was too much, replied Gui Lan with puffed cheeks, obvious sign of a childish pouting. Yes. Yes. It's my fault. I will help Lan'er eat his green peas and carrots in tomorrow's breakfast, said Xia Yi. The breakfast meal scheduled for tomorrow is omelette with peas and carrots as garnish. Gui Lan, who is known for hating his greens and carrots, was successfully coaxed. He leans back on Xia Yi as a sign of his forgiveness. Xia Yi happily hugs him as always. As for IS question, the reason why my link with the uncles isn't cut off is because I gave them a medium for it. It's an origami with a hair strand. As long as he has that on them, I can recreate a temporary link with them at a certain distance. The range is only within this institute. The distance of my range expanded when my abilities upgraded this morning because of the sudden backlash from your ability, explained Guilan. Everyone who heard his explanation showed surprise on their faces, but their points differed from each other. Only Xia Yi showed worry in his eyes when he heard that Guilan got affected by his abilities suddenly going out of control. Xia Yi also didn't expect that the memories he will see from that child is that terrible that he himself got affected by it. Since his consciousness at that time is connected to their group mental link, those traumatic memories overflow to their connection, incurring backlash from both his and Guilan's ability. Thankfully Guilan didn't faint like the rest and was able to create a diversion. The three of them suddenly losing consciousness are as bad as those scientists would definitely hypothesize the reason for their faint. Things like them guessing that he might have achieved a special ability is one. If they think in these directions, their group would certainly become a focused experimental subject. With more eyes on them, it would be harder to escape from this place. Are you hurting somewhere, Lana? Asked Xia Yi. I'm okay, It's not hurting anywhere, replied Guilan with a smile. Xia Yi murmured, that's good. Guilan moved his eyes from Xia Yi to everyone in the room. So thanks to Uncle Lin and Uncle Ku, our escape plan can be done ahead of time. According to our original plan, we need to gather everything about this institute on our own. This usually will take half a year after estimating the advantages and disadvantages, like being unable to move free and being taken as a target. That I thought things would need more time. But it's different now. According to Uncle Lin, the scientists, were allowed to leave this institute at every end of the month. Said Guilan. End of the month. 7 days from now. With the result of chaos postponing the classes for 3 days then, muttered Li Xing as he raised his head to meet Guilan's eyes. Guilan gave him a sly smile. Yes. We should be safe for 3 days. We got time to prepare ourselves for the incoming experiments and only have to suffer for 4 days at most, he said. If it's just for 4 days then, the result percentage of us dying would decrease, said Xia Yi. His words mean that they could avoid those terrible experiments, but they only need to suffer for 4 days at most. As long as they survive, escaping would not be a dream. Despite that, the expressions on Li Xing, Yi Zheng and Xia Yi were still ugly and fearful. Those memories they saw from Guilan and Xia Yi's abilities were both inhumane and full of agony. It was a nightmare that will become their reality soon. Thinking of those scenes, Li Xing and Yi Zheng couldn't stop trembling. Even the arm that was wrapped around Guilan shivered for a short moment. Looking at the fear the three boys are showing, Su Luan, as someone who had experienced it himself, couldn't help but click his tongue. He wanted to speak a few words, but he was stopped by his friend, Yunli, beside him. Su Luan, you guys. Yunli, stop, Alan. He grabbed his clothes and pulled him back at a distance. Su Luan struggles at the beginning. Don't stop me, Lear. I'm going to tell these brats to open their eyes in reality. Are you a fool? Look at Guilan. Whispered Yunli to his friend. Su Luan looked at Guilan as he was told to, only to receive an icy warning from that supposed youngest child among them. His current expression doesn't fit his age. Those aquamarine orbs stared at him with warning. He could even feel the coldness within those blue-green eyes. A threatening feeling that he would regret it if he spoke a few more comments of condemnation. Su Luan felt shivers climbing up from behind him as he hurriedly averted his eyes from that gaze. Except for Li Xing and Yi Zheng wallowing in their fears, the rest saw Guilan's sudden change of expression. A mischievous smile which feels made of fakery. Eyes that show indifference and aloofness that a child shouldn't possess, and that overwhelming pressure from being started at. Su Luan could even imagine an icy cold knife placed on his neck, something that could halt his life from continuing. There are no emotions except for a cold warning and threats. They felt something looming over them despite trying their hardest to run away. There is no way of escape. Seeing that expression on Gui Lan's face, Su Luan's words were left shut inside his mouth. Yunli even gestured for apology in his friends instead, but even then Gui Lan can see that Yunli is trying his best not to avoid his eyes. Xia Yi on the other hand forgot his fear altogether and remained silent the whole time. After a short silence, Gui Lan decided to comfort the two scared children. Didn't you guys want to leave this place? I want to leave. With Axing and everyone too, replied Yi Zheng. Me too. I want to get outside this place and be free with everyone, said Li Xing. Of course. I want to leave this hellish place as soon as possible, said Su Luan. I don't want to stay here. I want to read more books, replied Yunli. I want to live outside with Lan'er, said Xia Yi. Only at Xia Yi's words that Gui Lan paused his words for a moment. No one knew what he became silent like that. But it didn't take long for Gui Lan to react normally. He looked at Xia Yi and smiled. I wish for that too, replied Gui Lan. So let's do our best to survive for 4 more days, okay? After that won't we be free from this place? Let's do our best for a few more days and then everything will change after that. Hearing his words, the children were convinced and held back all their fears with determination and expectation for the future. This time what can be seen from these children's eyes was not that of despair and fear but hope for a new life and freedom. Once Gui Lan finished calming these children, he suddenly moved his gaze and stared coldly at some corner of his room. His eyes looked so dangerous and threatening before giving away an angelic smile. Xia Yi, who noticed his movement, asked, Is something wrong, Lan'er? Gui Lan moved his gaze and looked at Xia Yi. It's nothing. Just a bug. I'm sleepy, Then let's go to sleep and rest for today, replied Xia Yi, while others agreed to this idea as a whole. Room 0373 had entered in silent slumber. Meanwhile, somewhere in the institute, an adult man wearing white robes with a system-like screen in front of him stood up in shock when he saw the young boy called Gui Lan, looked at his direction and smiled at him. That child's appearance is extremely beautiful, but according to the script his system gave him, this child is supposed to be a cannon fodder. What the hell is happening here? System. Chapter 69. 4.7 Third Blue Star. Destroyers and World Hoppers, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Institute. Scientists' dormitory. In one of the rooms under the jurisdiction of the staff where most scientists reside, a man with short black hair wearing glasses on face was walking around inside his room in a circle. Obviously this man is one of the scientists of this place, but his situation seems to be more special than other people. He is like Gui Lan, an outsider but with a different purpose than his. This world hopper possessed the vessel called Professor Sen, one of the scientists that was against this institute's goal of using children for experimental subjects. His real name is Lu Yen. Lu Yen will be called Professor Senior. Calm down, my host. I've already reported the issue to the main core of the God system. If it is indeed an outsider, then there are only 2 options the host can choose from. First is to eliminate the outsider, and the host will receive extra rewards for it if the entity is a non-authorized personnel. Second, the host could cooperate with the outsider and reach a consensus of being an ally. System, you've said I would receive an extra reward for eliminating the outsider, but what do you mean by a non-authorized person? Asked Senior. Answering to the host. There are some circumstances where authorized people like higher beings descended to few stars to do their tasks. Their tasks were divided into 3 kinds: repair, execution and stabilize. While non-authorized ones were illegal world hoppers and they were called destroyers. Their only goal is the world's energy and doesn't care whatever means they need to achieve it. Most destroyers were gods or former world hoppers like the host, who aren't able to reach enlightenment even with the God system's help. They choose to destroy worlds to steal the life of the star to supplement theirs. These destroyers were the targets of elimination of executioners. Who is the strongest executioner in the God system? Can't we try contacting him? The one might be a destroyer to be able to notice your surveillance at such a clear difference of realm, replied Senior. According to the ranking in God's system, the strongest executioner is the God of Destruction. But the God of Destruction had taken his vacation a few years ago and is still ongoing. Why the hell did he have to be on vacation at this time? So unfair. I wanted a vacation too, exclaimed Senator. Apparently his rating as a world hopper was high enough to allow him to turn off the OOC, out of character, function. Before I forgot, his system's avatar is a white kitten currently laying on his shoulders. Of course. Invisible mode. What should I do if that person comes over here? Would I die tonight? Asked Sen to his system as if he was about to cry. The host shouldn't worry. The target had fallen asleep and will not be making a move tonight. The host should wait for the report from the main sys. All of the sudden the little white kitten from Professor Sen's shoulder was grabbed on its neck. System, exclaimed Sen. When he turned around he saw the same child Guilin carrying his little white kitten system by its neck. You are a system, but the power that is used is different from the ghostly chi from the netherworld. What is your never mind, I need to check on something. Check the identity of He Anjing in your system's database. I mean from your main core system, said Guilin as took a seat at the softest part of the bed like it was his right to do so. Guilin said, do it or I'll kill your host. Sen, upon hearing his life was online, he could only beg his system for help. After all, he didn't know what kind of death he will experience from this dangerous man. Oh, child. If it's only an ordinary death, then he will only return to his system space with his system, but if it's not that, then thinking of the result made him cry. Sen pleads to his system, Ing. 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 Save me, system. Ah. Dot. Please don't Ing, it doesn't suit your age. Guilin used his original ability he unsealed from the last world. Teleportation, the ability to move instantaneously from one location to another without physically occupying the space in between. He had long noticed some kind of energy is spying on him, but since his system, U, is not around, he wasn't able to pinpoint his target. Only when it got too close to him just now that he was able to feel its trails. Using his chi, he put a tracing imprint when Sen used his system to peer at him that one time. I'll try contacting God Systems administrators. Connection approved. Now asking for a copy of the world's data. Verification message. Please enter the name of authority. Underscore 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 underscore. OK, enter. He Anjing authority's name verified. Position. Third tier command. This is the third highest ranked position. If based in clan position, he can be considered as an elder. 1. Clan Old Master, 2. Clan Master, then 3. Elders. God Systems backup data received. Initiating in progress. Completion rates in progress. 10%. 30%. 50%. 80%. 100% backup data retrieved completed. I will now pass the data. Please don't reject the system's temporary link. Approved, replied Guilin, who closed his eyes as he received the data recorded under his name. It was only one of his conjectures and didn't expect to hit a jackpot. He knew that because of you his system and his husband is keeping things from him. Either that or even they didn't know, then there would only be one option left if even those two didn't know anything. It must be himself who made it so his current state will be memoryless. The question is why his memories were sealed instead. He closed his eyes to digest the data he got. The kitten on his hand escaped and ran towards his host after fulfilling his duty. He was given freedom. Sen, who is holding his system, my system, welcome back, 3 Amwa, please stop being a disgusting host. Don't bother the Venerable Lord. Venerable Lord. Who is the hell is he? Asked Senior. The host's authority is low. Unable to answer the host's question. Shit. Is he a high-ranking person? C. Can we get benefits? Whispered to his system. That. The host must work on it yourself. These two silly pairs of host and system finally remained silent, waiting for Guilin to open his eyes. It didn't take long for him to finish looking through the records of his identity. Upon learning everything he needed, Guilin opened his eyes and smiled. But despite his smile, his eyes were glinting with hints of silver, showing extreme fury and murderous intent. Those bastards really dared. I'll clean them up when I get back, murmured Guilin as he emits killing intent that was felt even by the system in the place. Professor Sen approached him despite his fear. He is obviously frightened and silly that he and his system hug each other while seated on the floor looking at Guilin from a distance. Stuttering in fear, Sire. Are you done? Asked Sen in an extremely respectful way. You are still here. Good timing. I need to ask you something. What are your tasks? Asked Guilin. That I don't remember, replied Sen as he avoided Guilin's scary gaze. Guilin smirks at him before looking coldly at the cat in his arm. Your host is stupid. You answer for him. Yes, Venerable Lord. The host's main task is to prevent the death of the original protagonist show of this world, Li Xing. The host needed to bring out the protagonist show out of this institute safely and let him meet the protagonist Gong in the Supernatural Investigation Department 20 years hereafter. Report done. I see. That is just my side task. I will give it to you. I will give you a heads up. You've seen those children when you peek at me a while ago. Why? Yes, sire, replied Senior. Remember them and make sure to be the one involved in their experiment time. Make sure our group enters your itinerary. Have your system tampers the surveillance in that laboratory. There is no need to do anything, just put them to sleep until the experiment time is done. This will be done for 4 days. You can work with the other 2 scientists named Lin Yi and Ku Lu about this. But don't forget these 2 are original residents, don't let them realize the existence of your system. We are planning to escape by the end of this month. I will make sure all of us will get separated by then. You can grab Li Xing and complete your task, explained Guilin. Guilin then passed 2 things on Sen's hands. One is an origami of a crane and the other is a special ticket called Redeeming Ticket he got from you. According to the information he got, this redemption ticket has universal use. Sen as a world hopper can use it. Keep the origami with you at all times or give it to your system. I'll contact him instead. The redemption ticket is your reward. Forget everything you've witnessed in this room. Everything. Just do your task. After all, I'm supposed to be not here. After saying all those, Guilin disappeared before Senator he used his teleportation ability to return back to his room and resume his sleep. He ignores whatever reaction this system and host pair have to their own. After all, he is currently someone supposed to be not involved with the God system at this moment. Few moments after Guilin left, Sen stared at the thing on his hand. Precisely at the golden-colored item called Redemption Ticket. He knew what a redemption ticket is. This is a luxury item that is even rarer than dragons from where he came from. System, am I seeing things right? A GG golden-colored redemption ticket, exclaimed Senior. Yes. It's a divine tier item. The golden ticket of redemption. It's a consumable item that will allow the host to redeem one thing in the God System Mall. But I wish to advise the host to instead convert the item to points, as none of the divine tier items in System Mall can be used by the host. Host's cultivation is still lacking. I'm a demigod. It's still not enough, asked Senior. Items that can be redeemed by the golden ticket of redemption are things that can only be consumed by God kings and above. Does the host wish to explode for overconsumption of world energy? I'll explode. Yes. No remains. Not even a speck of soul fragment. Then I'll just convert it to points. How much will it be after conversion? That will be 10 million points. With this the host can buy a high-grade godhead for cultivation upgrade to become a god. Congratulations to the host for becoming a god. God, I can become a god with this gold ticket from that venerable lord. Yes. Host. Do you wish to continue the conversion of items? Of course. Yes, of course. I thought I'll need a few more 100 years to become a god. To think just meeting that venerable lord I could become a god in just a minute. By the way, what is that venerable host's cultivation? Are you also not allowed to tell me? Impossible, it is not his identity, I'm asking just his cultivation stage. The main system had accepted your argument and allowed us to comply with this loophole in the rules once. Wow, lucky. So what is it? It seems this world hopper is not very keen in the mind but seems extremely lucky at times. The venerable lord is a celestial god. The reply his system told him rendered him speechless. He could only open his mouth and eyes widely in shocked and dismay. He is indeed worthy of being called a venerable lord. Inferno's main headquarters. Inside a luxurious-looking room. In a beautifully curated bedroom that features a mix of high-shine, semi-modern home decorations that boasts on the room ambience in a sea of neutrals. The flooring was kept simple with a classic white jade floor and rugs that are simple in pattern and carpets that feature a low pile with shade. Exposed beams, timber. Clad walls and stone elements characterize context. The colors in the room range in shades of white to gray then black, only these three colors. It gives a feeling of gloominess and absolute silence. In the side table made of black jade and black-coated sofa chairs, a man is seated while staring at the scenery outside his window with a glass of wine in his hand. The scenery outside the window is just a simple evening sky. There aren't numerous scattered stars, instead a huge bright moon hangs in the middle of the dark carpet in the sky. This man spoke out loud despite just being him alone inside the dimmed lit bedroom. Moving the glass in his hands, twirling the wine in it. Is there really a fragment really here? System, go check if that fragment really fell in this little world, the man said. Master. I've checked. There's a feeling of soul fragments in this star. Soul fragments. Not just one. Yes, Master. But I couldn't be sure how many there. At first there were many, then only one. Now it's vague, as if someone is hindering my detection skill. This man suddenly started laughing. Ha, interesting. I wonder what's in this little star that can blur even your detection skills as a high-level system. Anyway, more fragments means more world energy. I wonder how I can enjoy my time in this world. I'm getting excited for this. Locate the place where the nearest soul fragment stays. Let's hunt them one by one. Location found. The nearest soul fragment is found within one of Inferno branch in the city. I had pinpoint the exact location for the master. Good. Let the hunt begin. After returning back to room 0373 and laying back on the bed to sleep, Guilin suddenly heard a familiar system prompt in his mind. Ping. Host, you is back now. It took a while as the energy of this little star kept fluctuating. System, you didn't notice the strangeness in his host's gaze when looking at him in the mind space of his system. Guilin replied in his mind, welcome back, you. What are the results of your investigation? Reporting. According to the core of Nether system, this world is rated as an A-class world. There are currently 2 outsiders like the host. One of them is a world hopper from another main core system and the other is a destroyer. The latter one is a dangerous existence. The host is given a special task from the core of the Nether system. Eliminate the destroyer. For this special task the host is given a skill card. Limit Break. With this card the host is able to use its unsealed cultivation for 10 minutes. The host now has 2 Limit Break seal cards in the system inventory. An icy voice resounds in the system's mind space, 10 minutes is too much for killing a mere bug. Muttered Guelon in his mind, frightening even you who knew the extent of his host's real strength. Upon checking, the host is now only able to redeem 3 items. Did the host redeem something from the system mall? Yes. I took 2 of that red string of fate. Replied Guelon. Host, let me read your memories to check on your current progress in this world. Guelon took a short second of silence before agreeing to his system's requests, but before he let his system look through his memories he encapsulate the original memories of meeting the world hopper named Lu Yen and his system and create a false memory which doesn't include him of the part where he used his name to check on his authority from the other system connection to the God system. This only took a few seconds to be done. Actually, I've already met that world hopper you were saying just now. He is in this institute as well. Anyway, you can look through it yourself. Said Guelon as he let you look through the altered memories he made. Please pardon me, host. Go ahead. I'll go ahead and sleep now. Good night, you, replied Guelon. Good night, host. You replied. He first waited for his host to fall asleep before looking through his memories. Actually, this action of checking through his host's memories are orders from his boss. While he and his boss were waiting for the evaluation of the star to be stabilized and analyzed, they felt a strong fluctuation of killing intent from the star where his host resides. At first his boss thought that it might just be some kind of glitch, but when they saw the results of the star's evaluation, the supposed D-rank star suddenly became an A-rank star instead. It's no wonder that the world tasks and plots were strangely weird. The fact that few outsiders entered that A-rank world with one of them having a potential destroyer, you thought that strong killing chi might have come from that destroyer, but for some reason his boss thought otherwise. The boss thought it was his host's seals weakening and told him to check on it. This is the real reason for checking his host's memories. Thankfully, upon checking there is nothing weird on it. You secretly took a deep sigh in his heart without knowing that almost everything that is happening in this little world is already someone's control. A recap about the skills of our characters. Yi Zheng, morality viewing, ability to peer into a person's inner self to determine character. Li Guang, photographic memory, ability to remember things as photos in his memories. Li Xing, photographic deduction, ability to figure out connections in whatever the user is investigating. Yun Li, rhythm intuition, the knowledge/intuition of the rhythm and fluctuation of the sound waves. Su Luan, survival intuition, the ability to know all survival skills for all types of environments and being able to work effortlessly in those environments. Xia Yi, mind reading, an ability to read the mind of certain people whose mental strength is weaker than his. Guelon, our overpowered MC's original supernatural abilities. Asterisk precognition, ability to see a fracture of future events. Asterisk retrocognition, the power to discern events of the past. Asterisk teleportation, the ability to move instantaneously from one location to another without physically occupying the space in between. Original Guelan's special ability, asterisk telepathy, the supposed communication of thoughts or ideas by means other than the known senses. Newly gained ability, asterisk authority, the power to impose absolute commands upon any existence, even reality itself. A/N. This information about supernatural ability is based from a wiki fandom. https://powerlisting.fandom.com, everyone can check on it if you're interested.